Germany of Iron and Blood. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Battle of the Marne. Everyone, I propose to raise a glass to His Highness the Crown Prince. After the war is stable, we must hold a grand celebration dinner to celebrate the victory of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. William II looked very excited. Yes, Your Majesty. It is estimated that no country's prince can be as outstanding as His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness is not only an outstanding businessman, but also a warship designer, army weapon designer, car designer, and aircraft designer. And now there is a tendency to develop into a military strategist. Von Falkenhayn laughed loudly. Other people also complimented Qin Tian. Actually, that's hardly a compliment either. Qin Tian's performance was indeed very dazzling. Although little Moki was smiling, his heart became more and more uncomfortable. Looking at the compliments on those guys' faces, he knew that Qin Tian's influence in the military would become bigger and bigger. With Qin Tian's victory on the battlefield, this will make Qin Tian's position unshakable. No, I can't go on like this. I have to find a way to stop that guy's upward trend. Otherwise, I'm finished. Zhao Maoki secretly thought. Based on the enmity between him and Qin Tian, Zhao Maoki knew that after Qin Tian took power, the first thing he would do was to kick him from the position of Chief of the General Staff and replace him with von Falkenhayn. Enter that guy. Little Maoki has always been very clear about von Falkenhayn's thoughts. However, relying on his personal relationship with William II, he has been firmly suppressing von Falkenhayn. Now, after Qin Tian became the Crown Prince, he undoubtedly became a huge variable. Von Falkenhayn has a great possibility, relying on Qin Tian's support, to squeeze him out. Your Excellency, Chief of Staff, the current situation seems to be a bit bad for us. After William II left, Lieutenant General Prittwitz immediately got into Little Moltke's office. As a general of the Janissaries, Prittwitz still has a lot of power. However, he was still very unwilling. To be kicked out of the 8th Legion is a lifelong shame. This is especially true when the 8th Army has won successive victories. Lieutenant General Prittwitz even believed that without Qin Tian, he would have become the commander of the 8th Army now. His rank had been promoted to general, and he had led the 8th Army to defeat the Russians on the battlefield. With such credit, he even has a chance to be promoted to marshal. In his opinion, it was no big deal for Qin Tian to lead the 8th Army to defeat the Russian army. The main reason is that the Russians are too weak. If it were him, he could easily do it. Therefore, his heart became even more unbalanced. Seeing that the marshal is promising, but his path to promotion has been blocked, he is still only a lieutenant general. This made Lieutenant General Prittwitz full of resentment towards Qin Tian. No one thought that Oscar could actually lead the 8th Army to such a great victory on the Eastern Front. Zhao Maoki's face was gloomy. HMPH. In my opinion, the 8th Army's victory has nothing to do with Oscar. He is only in his 20s. Could it be that he is really a genius? I don't believe there are any geniuses in this world. I think the reason why the 8th Army won the victory is entirely because the Russians are too weak. In addition, the generals of the 8th Army are still very capable. Prittwitz said disdainfully. Little Maoki glanced at Prittwitz and sighed inwardly. Although Zhao Maoki considers himself an enemy of Qin Tian, he will not deliberately belittle Qin Tian, nor will he turn a blind eye to Qin Tian's ability. As an enemy, he also admired Qin Tian very much. Qin Tian is indeed a genius. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve so much in my 20s. Any one of these achievements, if it is an ordinary person, is enough to strive for it for a lifetime, and it may not be possible to achieve it. Your Excellency Chief of Staff, it can be seen that His Majesty the Emperor is paying more and more attention to Oscar. I think the word generation on his head will be removed soon, and he will become the real Crown Prince. Prithvi Lieutenant General CI said. Little Maoki nodded. He was very clear about the gradual change in William II's attitude. At the same time, he also knows, if Qin Tian changed from the acting Crown Prince to the real Crown Prince, then he would never have the chance to touch Qin Tian again. Even William II, whom he relied on the most, would never allow him to do that. At that time, not only his personal relationship with William II will be severed because of this, even face the blow of William II. Your Excellency, Chief of Staff, have you decided what to do? Lieutenant General Prithwitz urged. He was a little summoned, and Qin Tian's performance was getting better and better, which made him feel more and more desperate. Xiao Maoqi nodded. He has been thinking of ways to deal with Qin Tian all along. With Oscar's current status, it is impossible for us to directly attack him, let alone make small moves. That is to provoke His Majesty's bottom line. Therefore, we can only defeat him in a dignified manner. The only way is to command the army. Winning greater victories on the Western Front will completely cover up his brilliance. In that case, His Majesty the Emperor may not pay too much attention to him. In addition, I hope His Royal Highness Crown Prince William can recover soon. As long as His Royal Highness Crown Prince William can. Oscar came to his senses before becoming emperor, so it's hard to say who will succeed to the throne. Little Maoqi said. Lieutenant General Prithwitz nodded. He knew that Little Maoqi was telling the truth. Pray to God. Pray that God will bless us. Otherwise, we will be finished. Little Maoqi said with a smile. God will definitely bless us. Lieutenant General Prithwitz seemed very confident. On August 28th, Little Moltke officially submitted the battle plan for the Battle of the Marne to William II. Xiao Maoqi is trying to launch the Battle of the Marne at the end of August or early September, in one fell swoop, in the south of the Marne and the Verdun area, and severely damage the British and French allied forces. It is best to annihilate the main force of the British and French allied forces in this battle. Advance to the city of Paris, and take Paris down in one go. William II approved Moltke's battle plan, and he also hoped to get rid of France as soon as possible and win the war. The German army began to actively mobilize, and the British and French allied forces were also on the verge of a formidable enemy. This battle will directly affect the fate of both sides. If Germany wins, the Anglo-French coalition forces will be miserable. After losing Paris, whether the French will have the courage to continue fighting is probably hard to say. And if the British and French allied forces win, Germany's attempt to quickly defeat France will be completely defeated. Chapter 227, The Tsar's Wrath. The Russian capital Moscow, the Summer Palace. Tsar Nicholas II was furious, and there were already a lot of cases in the office, and all kinds of precious porcelain were all turned into pieces. The Persian handmade carpets on the ground became even more messy. The entire office, as if it had experienced a typhoon, became a mess. Of course, none of this is scary. The scariest thing is still the red-eyed Tsar Nicholas II. At this moment, he looked as if he was going to eat people, and he looked very scary. A group of Russian military and political ministers lowered their heads and said nothing, not even daring to look at Nicholas II. None of them knew what Nicholas II would do in his rage. After the news of the surrender of the First Army to the German army came, Nicholas II fell into a rage. Bastard. That fellow leaning camp, how could he live up to my trust in him? Why did he surrender to the Germans? As a general of the Russian Empire, he deserved to die in battle. Nicholas II King roared loudly with red eyes. Nicholas II still trusted Admiral Leaning Camp. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been promoted to admiral when everyone else questioned him, and let him be the commander of the First Army in this war. But now, Admiral Leaning Camp actually treats him like this. This made Nicholas II think that he was deceived. As an emperor, he has his own dignity, but was deceived by his subordinates. Such behavior was undoubtedly an insult to him, which naturally made Nicholas II furious. After a while, Nicholas II finally vented the anger in his heart, and the whole person gradually calmed down. However, from his occasional violent chest ups and downs, it can still be seen how angry he is. It's no wonder that a front army, a whole 500,000 allied troops disappeared, and the most trusted generals also betrayed. It would probably be unacceptable for anyone to do it. Come here, clean up this place. Let's go to another room to discuss things. William II said calmly. However, the tone was still a little stiff. It can be seen how angry he is now. Yes, Your Majesty. Since the ministers dare not violate William II, they all knew that the current William II was like a powder keg, which would blow up as soon as it was touched. Everyone I'm very saddened by the surrender of the First Army to the Germans. Tomorrow, the entire Russian Empire will become the laughingstock of the whole world. I will never allow such a thing to happen again. Nikolai II said. Yes, Your Majesty. The ministers hastily stated that they are definitely at the end of the Russian Empire and will never betray the Russian Empire. At the same time, he did not forget to scold Admiral Leinenkamp to show his loyalty to Nicholas II. So, tell me, what should we do with Leinenkamp? Nicholas II asked. For Leinenkamp, Nicholas II hated he very much and wished to tear him into pieces. He has made up his mind and he will never let this guy go. The ministers looked at each other. Leinenkamp has surrendered to the Germans, and now he is estimated to be locked up in a prisoner of war camp by the Germans, or has received preferential treatment from the Germans. Under such circumstances, what else can they do with Leinenkamp? Your Majesty, why don't we secretly send someone to assassinate Leinenkamp? This guy who betrayed His Majesty and the Russian Empire must not stay. The Minister of War, Grand Duke Carol, suggested. Well, this is a good way. We must send capable people to get rid of that guy Leinenkamp. Nicholas II said through gritted teeth. Yes, Your Majesty. Archduke Carol nodded. The other ministers could not help but feel a chill. They obviously did not expect that Nicholas II hated Admiral Leinenkamp so much. In order to kill Admiral Leinenkamp, he even resorted to such extreme measures. So, how to solve the current battle situation? The Northwest Front Army was wiped out in this battle. And our next step is not to mention continuing to attack East Prussia. Even if we are to defend the Kingdom of Poland, it will be very problematic. The Germans will never let go of this opportunity to win the Kingdom of Poland. Nicholas II was very unwilling. The existence of the Kingdom of Poland has made Russia a huge threat to the German Empire. In many cases, they can use this to check and balance Germany. If the Kingdom of Poland is lost, all these advantages of Russia will disappear. Even, on the contrary, it will be threatened by Germany. After all, East Prussia is not far from St. Petersburg. Your Majesty, the annihilation of the Northwest Front Army is indeed a very headache. Our troops are still being mobilized. However, due to traffic conditions and other factors, the mobilization efficiency is very low. In addition to the minimum troops left behind in various places, the standing army have already been transferred to the front line. But the loss of 500,000 people at once still makes our army stretched. However, the importance of the Kingdom of Poland is too great, and we must not give up the Kingdom of Poland. Russian Commander-in-Chief N.I. Grand Duke Gila said. Your Excellency, do you have any suggestions? Nicholas II asked. Grand Duke Nicholas is the uncle of Nicholas II and a very important person of Nicholas II. I suggest that if we want to reinforce the Kingdom of Poland, we can only deploy troops from the Guards. In addition, we should deploy a group army from the Southwest Front Army to go north. In this way, our strength in Poland will be kept at about 500,000. Even if the German attack cannot be resisted, at least it can be delayed. As long as our follow-up troops are mobilized, we can launch a counter-attack. Grand Duke Nicholas suggested. Nicholas II nodded. The Guards is the most elite unit of the Russian army, not only with the best equipment, but also with the toughest training. It can be called the leader of the Russian army. It's just that the Guards usually defend St. Petersburg and Moscow. Once the Guards are dispatched, it means that the war has reached a very critical point. Nicholas II considered for a while, finally nodded, and agreed to send out Guards to reinforce the Kingdom of Poland. Let the 2nd Army of the Guards go to Poland. In addition, transfer the 9th Army to Poland. Tell General Jelinski I will give him one last chance, and the Kingdom of Poland must be defended. Chapter 228, Burned Out Brits. It has been a month since the war broke out. However, the war situation has become very unfavorable to the Allies. Although, the overall strength of the Allies is obviously stronger than that of Germany. However, Germany's powerful military capabilities were fully demonstrated in this battle. Not only has it achieved great success on the East and West fronts, but the British are also in a state of embarrassment when they fight at sea. At least, from the current point of view, the Allies led by Germany, even if there are only two countries, Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, still have the possibility of winning this war. King George V of England specially summoned Prime Minister Asquith and asked him if he could reverse the current situation. If Britain cannot win the war, perhaps it is time to think of other ways. It can be seen that the king, who has just ascended the throne not long ago, is no longer so confident about whether he can defeat the Germans. After returning to the Prime Minister's office from Buckingham Palace, Prime Minister Asquith immediately held a cabinet meeting. "Gentlemen, His Majesty the King is very worried about the current war situation, for fear that we will lose in this war. Personally, I also have the same worries. Although, I believe that the British Empire is the most powerful, and it will definitely be able to we will win the war in the future. However, the current war situation is really not good for us. On the Eastern Front, the monstrous Crown Prince of Germany led an army of less than 200,000 people, and wiped out more than 500,000 Russian troops. On the Western Front, the Germans had already penetrated into northern France, and even threatened Paris. The British and French allied forces were beaten all over the place by the Germans. At sea, the German navy is even more aggressive. Every day, many merchant ships are sunk by the Germans in the Atlantic Ocean. The Royal Navy has nothing to do about it. Under such circumstances, it is really hard for me to believe that we will really win the final victory. Gentlemen, please tell me, what should we do now to turn the tide of the war?" Prime Minister Asquith's eyes swept across the faces of the cabinet members. "Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, I have to admit that the Germans do have a great advantage on the battlefield. However, this is mainly because they are too well prepared for this war. And we, the French and the Russians, were not prepared. Therefore, the Germans had an advantage in the early stages of the war, which is inevitable," Churchill explained. Indeed, when the war broke out, Britain, France, and Russia were not able to prepare for war. Britain has a strong navy, so don't expect too much from its army. The French army and the Russian army are undergoing adaptations. If the French army and the Russian army complete the adaptation, the combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. But unfortunately, their adaptation has not yet been completed, and the war has already begun. This made France and Russia have to suspend military reforms and face Germany. This also led to their unfavorable situation on the battlefield. Prime Minister Asquith nodded, reluctantly accepting this explanation. "Your Excellency, although the Germans have won victory on the Eastern Front, they have also wiped out as many as 500,000 troops. 500,000 troops may be a huge number for us. However, for the Russians it is nothing at all. You know, the standing army of the Russians is as many as 1.4 million. Once their mobilization is completed, the army can be expanded to more than 3.5 million, and if it goes further, it can reach it is not impossible to have 500,000 troops. Therefore, the loss of 500,000 troops is nothing to the Russians. We do not have to worry about the Russians at all. I believe that the Russians will soon send more troops are going to the front," said War Secretary Richard Haldane. As for the Western Front, the German army does take the initiative. Northern France has also fallen to a large area. However, the British and French allied forces are confident that they will defend the Marne River and resist the German attack. The Germans want to break through the Marne River defense line and lay down Paris. "That's impossible," continued Richard Haldane. "His Excellency, Minister of War, can the coalition forces really hold Paris?" Prime Minister Asquith asked. What he was most worried about was that Paris would be captured by the German army. In that case, the French may despair and withdraw from the war. At that time, everything will be irreversible. Without France to contain Germany on land, Russia, which relies only on the Eastern Front, is no match for the Germans at all. Without worries on land, the Germans will definitely fight the British Empire for the ocean with all their strength. At that time, will Britain still be able to win? Prime Minister Asquith, even if he wasn't from the Navy, knew it would be very difficult. "Your Excellency, I don't think you need to worry about this. Even if the French lose Paris, they will continue to fight. Their will to fight is still very firm. I have already talked to the French Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs on this issue." Foreign Secretary Sir Edward Grey smiled. Prime Minister Asquith nodded. "If this is the case, it would be great. Although the current situation is very bad, it is not so bad that it is out of control. The British and French allied forces are also likely to come back again, although this is the case, we still need to send more expeditionary troops to help the French. It would be best if Paris could not fall. Once Paris falls, it will be a fatal blow to the morale of the French army and the people. We absolutely cannot allow that to happen. Otherwise, it will be even more difficult for us to win the war. Prime Minister Asquith said. Yes, Your Excellency the Prime Minister. Richard Haldane nodded. Now that the army has no problem, Prime Minister Asquith looked to Churchill. Minister of the Navy, has the Navy thought about how to deal with the Germans? If the safety of our sea transportation lines cannot be guaranteed, there will be big problems. Prime Minister Asquith said with a serious face. Britain is a country that relies heavily on sea transportation. Once the sea transportation line is cut off, the consequences will be fatal. Your Excellency, the Royal Navy is already trying to deal with the German fleet and submarines. We even send capital ships to **** merchant ships. From the current point of view, the effect is not bad. The fleet escorted by capital ships, none of them were attacked. However, this is a solution to the symptoms, rather than the root cause. I have ordered the Royal Navy to find a way to deal with the German breaching fleet. Only by eliminating them can our sea transportation lines be truly safe. Chapter 229, Royal Navy Trap. General Jellicoe, General Betty, how does the Royal Navy plan to solve the threat to our sea transportation line from the German fleet and submarine force? The Prime Minister has no patience. In addition to the current war, it is very detrimental to the entire Allied powers. Therefore, the Cabinet hopes that the Royal Navy can come up with a proper response as soon as possible. Churchill looked at Admiral John Jellicoe and Lieutenant General David Beatty. Your Excellency, in order to reduce the loss of the transport fleet, we are now adopting a large fleet plus a warship escort. On the midline of the Atlantic, merchant ships are assembled. Then the Royal Navy provides safety protection for these assembled merchant ships. From the current point of view, the effect is not bad. We have provided 2 to 3 capital ships for each transport fleet. This makes it impossible for the Germans to break through the fleet, thus ensuring the safe arrival of the transport fleet. Great Britain, said Admiral John Jellicoe. Churchill nodded. This method can solve the problem. However, a large number of capital ships of the Royal Navy have to be engaged in the task of escorting the fleet, which will undoubtedly weaken the strength of the Royal Navy. Our capital ships have gone to **** the transport fleet, so what can we do to deal with the German high seas fleet? Churchill asked. Your Excellency, our number of capital ships is seriously insufficient now, so we can only maintain vigilance against the German high seas fleet. Once we find out that they have changed, we will assemble the fleet. Admiral Jellicoe said. No, in this case, the efficiency is too low. Before our main fleet is assembled, the German high seas fleet may have launched an attack. Protecting the sea transportation line and defeating the German high seas fleet are equally important. Churchill said. This immediately made John Admiral Jellicoe didn't know how to answer. The Royal Navy is indeed very powerful, but it is undoubtedly difficult to do these 2 tasks well at the same time. Your Excellency, we are preparing a plan for the German Navy's breaching fleet. If it succeeds, it will severely damage the Germans' breaching fleet. In this case, the threat of the German Navy's breaching fleet to us will be reduced to it is the lowest. It is not impossible to even solve this problem in one fell swoop. Lieutenant General David Beatty said. Oh, what plan? Churchill seemed very interested in this. He undoubtedly hopes to solve the German Navy's high seas fleet once and for all. Without the threat of the high seas fleet, Britain's sea transportation lines would be unimpeded, and Britain's war potential can also be unaffected. Your Excellency, we are going to send a large transport fleet from Canada to the UK. At that time, we will assemble a large **** fleet. The German fleet will definitely attack this fleet. At that time, we will ambush another elite fleet nearby. Once the Germans breaking fleet launches an attack, we will launch an ambush for them. At that time, we will definitely be able to severely damage the German high seas fleet. David Beatty the Lieutenant General appeared to be full of confidence. Churchill frowned. In his opinion, this plan seemed a little too crude, with loopholes everywhere. Will the Germans take the bait? They are not fools. Churchill raised his doubts. Your Excellency, the Germans will definitely take the bait. As long as we prepare enough bait to tempt them, they will definitely take the bait. Even if it doesn't work once, we can prepare several more times. If the German fleet does not launch an attack, if so, we can just ship a large amount of war materials to the UK. Lieutenant General David Beatty said. Churchill nodded. Well, from this point of view, this is a way to get the best of both worlds. If the Germans' fleet breaks through the attack, then we will kill them. If they don't attack, our fleet will be safe. Get supplies to the UK. Either way, we are victors. That's a good idea, Your Excellency. Then, we need further authorization. This plan has already been prepared, but if the authorization can be obtained, the fleet can depart from Canada tomorrow. Admiral John Jellicoe also said excitedly, I can give you a mandate right away. However, I hope you can guarantee a victory for the British Empire. Churchill said, yes, Your Excellency, Minister. We promise to win. Admiral John Jellicoe and Lieutenant General David Beatty are very confident. As early as the battlecruiser Lion was sunk, the Royal Navy Grand Fleet had already begun to find a way to solve the German Navy's broken fleet. After this period of hard work, they finally perfected the plan and started to put it into action. What is lacking now is nothing more than a mandate from Churchill. Of course, they had already expected that Churchill would definitely authorize them. Because, from the bottom of his heart, Churchill was a main fighter. May I know which warships you have prepared for this operation? Churchill asked. Of course, Your Excellency, this plan may be a secret to others. However, adults are fully qualified to know this plan. Lieutenant General David Beatty said. The fleet we have prepared for this plan is mainly divided into the **** fleet and the ambush fleet. The **** fleet is 4 George V class battleships. The ambush fleet is 3 Invincible class battle cruisers, 3 Indefatigable class battle cruisers, the remaining 2 Lion class battle cruisers, the Tiger battle cruiser and the 4 Iron Duke class battle cruisers that have just entered service. Lieutenant General David Beatty said. Is this going to wipe out all the capital ships of the Royal Navy? Churchill asked suspiciously. Your Excellency, we are indeed preparing to dispatch the most powerful battleships in the Royal Navy. In addition to the battle cruisers, the 4 George V class battleships and the 4 Iron Duke class battleships are the latest Royal Navy battleships. A sharp capital ship. At that time, once the German Navy's high seas fleet takes the bait, we will prepare a tight encirclement, and we will never let the Germans have the opportunity to take out this encirclement. Lieutenant General David Beatty said. If it wasn't for the Queen Elizabeth class battleships that haven't entered service yet, it is estimated that David Beatty will require this class of battleships equipped with 381mm main guns to join this operation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Just Count. On August 31st, 1914, a large fleet set off from the east coast of Canada. This fleet consists of more than 20 merchant ships. On merchant ships, iron ingots, aluminum ingots and various non-ferrous metals are transported, as well as grains such as wheat and grains. After the start of the Great War, the British war machine has been running crazily, which requires a lot of war materials to consume. It is obviously impossible to meet the needs of the war by relying solely on the resources mined in the UK. Therefore, Britain can only mobilize various resources from its vast colonies. It is precisely because there are vast colonies available for exploitation that Britain has the confidence to join this war. Although the German Navy's breaking fleet is frantically attacking the British sea transportation line, causing great losses to the United Kingdom. However, this did not prevent the British from transporting various supplies to the mainland. The British know very well that the sea transportation line is their lifeblood. For a country that even needs to transport food from overseas, once the sea transportation line is cut off, it means death. That's why the British government is so nervous about the attack on the sea transportation line by the German Navy. Only then will the Royal Navy be required to destroy the German Navy's breaking fleet at all costs to ensure the safety of the Royal Navy's sea transportation lines. Of course, Germany also knows this, so it will do its best to cut off the British sea transportation line, thereby weakening Britain's war potential and winning this war. It can be said that the competition for maritime supremacy between the United Kingdom and Germany will mainly revolve around the British sea transportation lines. Especially before the main fleets of the two sides engage in a decisive battle, the battle of breaking and fighting against breaking will become the main battle of this naval battle. The news that the British large-scale fleet departed from Canada was also sent back to China by German spies in Canada as soon as possible. After the German Navy learned of the news, it immediately analyzed it and concluded that this was most likely a British conspiracy. After all, under the attack of the German Navy's breaking fleet, the British have already suffered a lot on the sea transportation line. Even if they sent warships to escort, it only reduced some losses. The battle cruisers and submarines of the German Navy continued to achieve results, sinking British merchant ships and transport ships, threatening the British sea transportation lines. Even on average, for every ship of materials transported by the UK to the country, a transport ship sank into the sea with the materials. Such a loss, even if Britain has the world's largest merchant fleet and the world's most powerful shipbuilding capabilities, it will soon be unable to hold on. Therefore, the Britain will definitely find a way to change this situation. The elimination of the German Navy's break-off fleet is undoubtedly the solution to this problem once and for all. Your Excellency Marshal, Your Excellency Commander. Therefore, the Naval Staff Department concluded that the news this time was most likely revealed by the British on purpose. And their goal, of course, is self-evident, which is to destroy us. Hand it over to the fleet. Chief of Naval Staff Marshal von Pohl said. The German Navy Minister Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded, and he could also guess what kind of calculation the British were planning. However, another piece of information shows that the supplies transported by the British fleet are all genuine, and they are all the various resources and food that the British continue. If we don't attack them, this fleet will be able to safely transport these supplies to the UK. This will further unleash Britain's war potential, said Admiral Reinhard Scheer, commander of the High Seas Fleet. General Scheer, do you mean that, even if we know this is a trap, we should take the risk? Marshal Earl Tirpitz frowned. This decisive sea battle with the United Kingdom is directly related to whether the German Navy can gain maritime supremacy from the British. Therefore, he hopes to be more cautious. Such an obvious trap, the German Navy should naturally find a way to avoid it. Yes, Marshal. I personally think that we can take a risk. With the strength of our fleet, we can deal with all problems. Coupled with the advantage of speed, even if we are really in danger, we can escape calmly. If we can get rid of this huge British transport fleet this time, then the British may not dare to do this again in the future. This is very important for cutting off the British sea transport line. It will be very effective to attack the war potential of the British. Admiral Reinhard Scheer explained his reasons. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded, which is indeed very reasonable. However, he was a little uncertain about how to choose. Your Highness, what do you think? Marshal Count Tirpitz looked at Qin Tian. That's right, Qin Tian also participated in this naval meeting. Although, during this period of time, Qin Tian's main experience has been placed on Lu Jun. However, after the 8th Army killed the Russian Northwest Front Army, a week-long rest began. Qin Tian also used this time to return to Berlin to report on his duties to King William II, and at the same time visit his wife and children. Coincidentally, after the Navy learned of the little tricks of the British, Marshal Earl Tirpitz invited Qin Tian to participate in this meeting. Qin Tian's investment in the Navy is undoubtedly the largest, and he also hopes that the Navy can win the decisive battle with the British the most. Therefore, Qin Tian did not refuse the invitation of Marshal Earl Tirpitz and directly agreed. There is no doubt that this must be a trap set by the British in order to eliminate our breaching fleet. I'm sure that, if we launch an attack, the British must have a strong main fleet ready ambush us. Qin Tian said. Does your highness mean that the British will be ignored this time? Asked Marshal Count Tirpitz. Of course not. If we let the British fleet reach the British mainland, the British will choose this way next time. At that time, if we want to cut off the British sea transportation line, it will become empty talk, so we must try our best to avoid such a situation from happening. Qin Tian said. Everyone looked at Qin Tian, wondering why he said contradictory words. Although we know that this is a trap set by the British. However, we can use our tricks to let the British steal chickens without losing money. A smile appeared on Qin Tian's face. Chapter 231. This is an opportunity. Gentlemen, the British have set a trap against our breaching fleet. I must say that this is a great threat. But within this threat lies an opportunity. If we can seize with this opportunity, this will make the navy of the German Empire further ahead of the British. In future naval battles, our chances of winning will be even greater, Qin Tian said. All eyes were on Qin Tian, as if they were waiting for what he would say next. According to the information we have so far, there are 4 King George V class battleships providing **** for the British fleet. These are 4 powerful super dreadnought ships equipped with 5 dual-mounted 343mm main guns. Is definitely the main battleship of the British Navy. If we can eat up these 4 British battleships in one go, the British will undoubtedly suffer heavy losses, Qin Tian said. However, Your Highness, the British must have been prepared. They will definitely ambush other fleets waiting for us. Our fleet's strength will destroy the British's 4 King George V class battleships. It won't be a big problem. But if we fall into an ambush by the British, then the problem will be serious. Marshal von Pohl was a little worried. Qin Tian smiled and continued. Let's continue to analyze. The British know that the main force of our fleet is battle cruisers. They also know very clearly the advantage of battle cruisers. That is, they are faster than battleships. Many. Therefore, if they want to ambush us, the greatest possibility is to use battle cruisers. After the British battlecruiser line was sunk by us, they still have 9 battlecruisers left, namely 3 Invincible class battlecruisers and 3 Invincible class battlecruisers, as well as the remaining 2 of the Lion class battlecruisers and the just completed Tiger battlecruiser. Invincible battlecruisers and the Indefatigable class battlecruisers pose very little threat to us. This kind of thin-skinned battlecruiser is not an opponent of our advanced battlecruisers at all. Only the Lion class battlecruisers, the battlecruiser Tiger, can confront us in front of us. Of course, the previous naval battles have proved that the Lion class battlecruiser is still no match for our Molt class battlecruiser. The most powerful is also comparable to our Blucher class battlecruisers. Therefore, even if the British dispatched battlecruisers to ambush us, it will not pose a great threat to us. For us, this will be a great opportunity to hit the British Navy hard. Your Highness, what if the British sent to ambush our fleet, including other battleships? Asked Marshal Earl Tirpitz. After all, what Qin Tian said just now was all speculation, that the British only sent battle cruisers to ambush the German Navy. Qin Tian nodded. It is indeed possible. Therefore, I think that the Der Flieger class battle cruisers we have been hiding all along can also be dispatched. They will serve as our break-off fleet in this battle. The follow-up supplementary force. Once the British ambush appeared, they immediately launched an attack and dealt a fatal blow to the British. The Der Flieger class battlecruiser is completely different from another time and space. This time-space Der Flieger class battlecruiser is equipped with 3 terrifying battlecruisers with triple 50 caliber 380mm main guns. The firepower of the main gun is astonishing. At the same time, in terms of defense, compared with the previous Molt class battlecruiser, it has also been greatly improved. It can be said that, even if it is a confrontation with the British battleships, the first to be unable to support it is definitely the British battleships. Before the follow-up Mackensen class battlecruisers enter service, this will be the most powerful battlecruiser in the German Navy and even in the world. After the Der Flieger class battlecruisers entered service, they have been kept under high secrecy. Although the British tried their best to find out the true strength of the German Navy, they still failed. Although Germany invests huge sums of money in intelligence work and counter-espionage work every year. However, it now appears that these investments have undoubtedly paid off. And now is the time to reap those rewards. Let the Der Flieger class battlecruisers join the battle? Your Highness, have you considered it? If the Derflinger class battle cruisers join the battle, the British will know that we have equipped with 380mm main guns. There's news about the battleship. Marshal Earl Tirpitz frowned. It's not a big deal. Even if our Derflinger class battle cruisers are not exposed, the British will not slow down their shipbuilding plan. According to the latest information obtained, the British Queen Elizabeth, the construction speed of the Revenge class battleship and the Revenge class battleship have been greatly accelerated, and they are expected to enter service next year. Therefore, there is no need for us to hide any longer. If we can cause heavy damage to the British Navy in this battle, then everything will be worth it. Qin Tian said, "Your Excellency, Marshal, Your Highness's plan is absolutely feasible. If we can severely damage the British Navy, even if we only sink 4 British battleships in this battle, it will be enough for us to further maintain our advantage over the British. That if we do, our chances of winning will be even greater in future naval battles." Admiral Reinhard Scheer said. Even Marshal von Bohr, Chief of Staff of the Navy, couldn't help but nodded, approving Qin Tian's plan. Indeed, for the senior officials of the German Navy, what they want to do most is to defeat the Royal Navy. It's just that the background of the British Navy is so strong that they have to face it cautiously. Every step must be done carefully. This time the plan, although a bit risky, but the chances of success are undoubtedly great. No matter how bad it is, even if it is really dangerous, these battle cruisers of the German Navy can completely use their speed advantage to throw off the enemy and escape. After all, the battle cruisers of the German Navy are much more powerful than those of the British Navy. If the British battle cruisers dared to pursue them, they would undoubtedly be courting death. Well, since everyone thinks so, let's implement His Highness's plan. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded. Gentlemen, this will be a rare opportunity for the Imperial Navy. Whether you can seize this opportunity is up to you. Qin Tian is also full of expectations for this plan. Chapter 232, Preview before the war. On the night of September 1st, 1914, 3 huge warships slowly sailed out of the Wilhelmshaven naval base. Escorted by several light cruisers and destroyers, they left the naval port and sailed into the vast Atlantic Ocean. These 3 huge battleships are the Derflinger class battle cruisers of the German Navy, and they are also powerful capital ships that the German Navy has been hiding in the snow. In order to hide their strength, they were not even sent out during the Battle of Breaking the Diplomatic Relationship. But now, in order to break the trap set by the British and make the British suffer a big loss, Qin Tian finally decided to send them out. Admiral Reinhard Scheer, commander of the German Navy's High Seas Fleet, personally directed this operation. Therefore, he took the battle cruiser Derflinger as his flagship, commanded these battle cruisers, and joined the upcoming naval battle. Although, it is already night, but under the bright moonlight, the figure of the Derflinger class battle cruiser still looks so tall and straight, with a strong deterrent force. In particular, the 380mm main gun covered by a thick gun coat exudes a fearful atmosphere. Admiral Reinhard Scheer, standing on the bridge, looked at the huge battleship under his feet, feeling overwhelmed. As the commander of the High Seas Fleet, the burden on his shoulders is undoubtedly very heavy. It can be said that he shouldered the dream of the German Navy defeating the British Navy and dominating the world's oceans. If it is a person with a weak will, it may have been crushed long ago. However, Admiral Reinhard Scheer did not. Because of the strong strength of the German Navy's High Seas Fleet, his waist can always be straight. Come on, British. This time, let you see the true strength of the German Empire Navy. The current German Empire Navy is no longer the weak offshore navy. We have enough strength to defeat you and let you know the price of provoking the German Empire. Admiral Reinhard Scheer swore secretly in his heart. For every officer and soldier of the German Navy, watching the British Navy show off its power in the ocean and even oppress Germany step by step with its strong strength is undoubtedly a great shame to them. Now, they finally have the opportunity and the strength to take revenge. This is undoubtedly something to make them excited. Send a telegram to General Hipper and General Spee and let them act according to the predetermined plan. It's up to them to destroy the 4 British battle cruisers King George V. We will be on the Germans. When the ambush appears, attack again. Admiral Reinhard Scheer ordered. Yes, Your Excellency Commander. The communications officer immediately went to send a telegram. Soon, the fleet began blackout. The entire fleet sailed on the aircraft carrier under the cover of night. They will break through the blockade of the British as soon as possible and enter the vast Atlantic Ocean. On the Atlantic Ocean, the 1st and 2nd battle cruiser squadrons of the German Navy's High Seas Fleet are cruising the vast ocean, looking for targets to attack. On the battle cruiser Blucher, Lieutenant General Hipper, who had already fallen asleep, was awakened. "General, this is a telegram from Your Excellency Commander." The communications officer delivered the telegram to Lieutenant General Hipper. "Haha, I knew that we would not let go of this opportunity. Order the fleet to turn around immediately. Contact the 2nd Battle Cruiser Squadron and join them as soon as possible." Lieutenant General Hipper read the telegram, couldn't help laughing. He had received information that Britain was mobilizing a large fleet from Canada. It's just that he didn't dare to act rashly when he didn't get a clear order. Now, the German Navy's High Seas Fleet has officially made a decision to eat this huge fleet of the British and has also dispatched the Der Flieger class battle cruisers to participate in the battle. The Navy is determined. On the battle cruiser Moltke of the German Navy, Lieutenant General Spee also received a telegram from Admiral Reinhard Scheer. After reading the telegram, Admiral Reinhard Scheer ordered the fleet to turn around and prepare to act according to the predetermined plan point. After sinking the battle cruiser Lion, Lieutenant General Spee has become a star figure in the German Navy. Even Kaiser Wilhelm II commended him and decided to award him a medal himself. This made Lieutenant General Spee very excited. At the same time, he also liked the feeling of sinking the enemy's capital ship more. Now, the British actually want to send a fleet from Canada back to the British mainland. Although this is a trap, it still makes Lieutenant General Spee very excited. If he can seize this opportunity, the fleet under his command may achieve another or even more victories. After all, the performance of the Moltke-class battle cruiser is unquestionable. Even against battleships of the same level as the British, it still has a certain advantage. Not to mention the British battle cruisers. Of course, if you want to pick up a bargain, it is best to bump into the British Invincible class battle cruiser and Indefatigable class battle cruiser. These two levels of battle cruisers are undoubtedly the most *** existence. Once they ran into them, they would surely die. At a time when the German Navy had decided to eat the bait that the British Navy had deliberately laid down, the British Navy didn't know this. They are still implementing the plan step by step. The British Navy's Invincible class battle cruiser, the remaining two of the Indefatigable class battle cruiser and the Lion class battle cruiser, plus the Tiger battle cruiser, all rushed to the battlefield. This time the operation was still under the command of Lieutenant General David Beatty. He placed his flagship on the battle cruiser Tiger. In addition, the 4 Iron Duke battleships of the British Navy also secretly left Scapa Flow, entered the Atlantic Ocean, and rushed to the battlefield. In this upcoming naval battle, the navies of both Britain and Germany have invested their main force. Although, not all the main force, but also very powerful. And this is probably a rehearsal before the final decisive battle between the navies of both sides. Both of them are ambitious and want to inflict a heavy blow on the other side in this operation. The German Navy hopes to take the opportunity to severely damage the British Navy and gain further advantages. The British Navy, on the other hand, wanted to get rid of the German Navy's broken fleet in one fell swoop and protect the maritime transportation lines they depended on for survival. Chapter 233, The Bait Appears. General, will the Germans be fooled this time? On the battle cruiser Tiger, a staff officer asked Lieutenant General David Beatty. The Germans should be fooled. If they want to attack the British Empire, they must prevent us from obtaining resources from the colonies everywhere. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for them to defeat the British Empire. David Lieutenant General Beatty said. Now he has come out of the shadow of the sinking of the battle cruiser Lion. Although, the loss of the battle cruiser Lion was a stain on him. But Lieutenant General David Beatty believed that, with the strength of the British Empire, he would be able to use German warships to wash away this stain. He has always believed in this. The Tiger battle cruiser at the foot is the strongest battle cruiser of the British Navy, although it generally continues the design ideas and plans of the Lion class battle cruiser. However, many internal improvements have been made, making the performance of the Tiger battle cruiser a lot better than that of the Lion class battle cruiser. It is precisely because of this that the Tiger battleship, which was originally the 4th Lion-class battlecruiser, was specially listed by the Royal Navy as a first-class battleship. However, Lieutenant General David Beatty is a little worried that even the battlecruiser Tiger under his feet may not be an opponent of the Moltke-class battlecruiser of the German Navy. In that battle, the battlecruiser Moltke was hit, but nothing happened. Its solid defense gave Lieutenant General David Beatty a great shock. Despite the battlecruiser Tiger's performance is very strong, but the defense is still its biggest weakness. In this regard, it cannot be compared with the battlecruisers of the German Navy. Once the two sides are at war, this may become the main weakness of the battlecruiser Tiger. However, Lieutenant General David Beatty has nothing to do about it. Who made the British Navy's shipbuilding thinking like this? Emphasis on firepower and speed, despise defense. Now even if he understands that underestimating defense will bring serious consequences, if he wants to change it, it will not be possible in a short while. HMPH. The defense of the German battlecruisers is very strong, but so what? This time, we will definitely win. There are Iron Duke class battleships and King George V class battleships joining us, plus 9 battlecruisers. We have already assembled 17 capital ships. The Germans broke through with only 6 battlecruisers. With a threefold advantage, the victory must belong to us. David Lieutenant General Beatty thought secretly. Victory will definitely belong to the British Empire. It is delusional for the British to challenge the British Empire. The staff officer also echoed. Obviously, the last time the battlecruiser Lion was sunk, it has been regarded as a great shame by these officers of the Royal Navy. All the time they wanted to seek revenge from the Germans. This time is undoubtedly a rare opportunity for them. Let the Invincible class battlecruisers and the Indefatigable class battlecruisers separate and keep a 2-hour voyage with us. Be careful not to be discovered by the Germans. In addition, let the Iron Duke class battleship formation speed up. Lieutenant General David Beatty ordered. Yes, General. The staff officer immediately went to give the order. The troops of the British Navy this time are divided into 5 formations, large and small, namely 3 battlecruiser formations and 2 battleship formations. Except for the formation composed of 4 King George V class battleships that accompanied the merchant ships, the rest of the formations were prepared to wait for the appearance of the German Navy's breaking fleet for ambushes. In order to deal with the German Navy's breaking fleet, the British Navy has done its best this time. On the vast Atlantic Ocean, a huge fleet is sailing on the ocean. More than 20 large but slow merchant ships are in the middle of the formation. In front of the formation were 4 huge battleships that looked like hills. In the other direction, the British Navy's light battleships. This fleet is exactly the fleet sailing from Canada to the British mainland. It is the 4 King George V class battleships of the British Navy that provide **** for these merchant ships. On the battleship King George V, a middle-aged admiral was smoking a cigar and observing the sea ahead with a telescope. "Did you find anything?" asked the general. "General, nothing has been found so far. The Germans seem to have disappeared," a staff officer said with a smile. "Haha. I knew that the Germans were as cowardly as mice. They didn't dare to attack us at all." The King George V class battleship is a powerful battleship second only to the Iron Duke class battleship. The Germans, if our battlecruisers dare to come, they will definitely be blown to pieces. The general smiled contemptuously. General Beatty has a telegram asking if we have found the Germans. A communications officer reported. "Tell General Beatty that no Germans have been found yet, and I don't think we will encounter Germans in the future. I'm afraid the plan this time will fail, because the Germans simply don't have the guts to deal with us." The general smiled, said, "Yes, General." The communications officer immediately went to call back. This middle-aged general is named Carroll, a rear admiral of the British Royal Navy. Although he is not young, he is still the main combat faction in the Royal Navy. Of course, the pride of the Royal Navy being number 1 in the world is unmatched by anyone. However, what Rear Admiral Carroll didn't know was that less than half an hour after their fleet sailed, a submarine emerged from the sea with debris. On the side of the submarine, its hull number is marked with paint, U-48. The submarine reported the speed, course and other relevant information of the British fleet to the German Navy Ministry through wireless telegraphy. The Ministry of the Navy immediately notified the news to the fleet in the Atlantic Ocean. Has the British bait finally appeared? Sent a telegram to the 1st and 2nd battle cruiser squadrons. The bait has appeared, and launch an attack immediately. Try to get rid of the 4 British ships in the shortest possible time. King George V class battleship. Admiral Reinhard Scheer gave the order. Considering that the British still have ambushes, it is best for the Battlecruiser Detachment 1 and the Battlecruiser Detachment 2 to be able to resolve the battle in the shortest possible time. In this way, they will have enough strength to deal with the British ambush. Chapter 234, Hooked. On the morning of September 3, 1914, the fleet led by British Rear Admiral Carroll, escorting a large number of merchant ships, was heading towards the British mainland. Here, it is not far from the Azores Islands. After sailing to Dong for another day, we can go there for Esopli. It seems that the Germans really don't have the guts to come. Major General Carroll said with some regret. Rear Admiral Carroll regretted not being able to take advantage of this opportunity to eliminate the German Navy's breaching fleet in one fell swoop. However, he and other British Navy generals will not give up. This time it won't work, and the next time it will continue as usual until the German Navy's breaking fleet has to be solved. Of course, if the German Navy's break-off fleet does not launch an attack, the British fleet can also safely arrive in the British mainland. This is also a victory for the United Kingdom. It can be said that no matter what the German Navy chooses, the British Navy is always on the winning side. However, what Major General Carroll didn't notice was that a seaplane had just left from above the fleet. With the help of the cover of the clouds, the British fleet below knew nothing about it. This seaplane belongs to the German Navy. Every battle cruiser and heavy cruiser of the German Navy is equipped with a seaplane. This can not only be used to detect the enemy's situation, but also can be used to provide artillery fire calibration. This also makes you wait for the Navy to once again walk ahead of the British in these aspects. An hour later, a large black cloud appeared in the sky north of the fleet. These were not really dark clouds, but thick smoke rising into the sky. The battleships of the German Navy use heavy oil boilers. After burning heavy oil, a lot of black smoke will be produced. The watchman of the British fleet discovered this problem at the first time, and immediately reported it to Major General Carroll. Haha, that's great. Those Germans really dared to come. Immediately send a telegram to General Betty. The fish has been hooked. We will firmly drag them down. Major General Carroll gave an order excitedly. Although he has great confidence in the King George V class battleship, he also knows that the German battle cruisers are not easy to deal with. The sinking of the battle cruiser Lion is an example. Besides, the purpose of this time was originally to get rid of the German Navy's breaching fleet. If his reckless actions lead to the failure of this plan, the Royal Navy and even the British government will never let him go. Order the fleet and prepare for battle. The merchant ship immediately turned and left the battlefield. Rear Admiral Carroll issued the second order. Once the naval battle starts, they have no way to take care of those merchant ships. Let them go first to ensure their safety. At the same time, the safety of those materials transported on merchant ships can also be ensured. In order to achieve the purpose of deceiving the German Navy, the materials carried on these merchant ships are all real. It would be a pity if it was lost. Yes, General. The British fleet was soon ready for battle. 4 King George V class battleships, leading some cruisers and destroyers, greeted the attacking German Navy's breaking fleet. The remaining few light cruisers and destroyers escorted the fleet southward in an attempt to avoid this naval battle. At the same time, Major General Carroll has sent a telegram to Lieutenant General David Beatty, requesting reinforcement. Lieutenant Admiral David Beatty led the other warships of the British Navy and followed far away from the fleet 2 hours away. When the communications officer delivered the telegram to him, Lieutenant General David Beatty yelled excitedly, "Very good, very good. The damned Germans finally took the bait. This time, we must kill them all." Lieutenant General David Beatty roared excitedly, "Send a message to the 1st Battle Cruiser Squadron, the 2nd Battle Cruiser Squadron and the 2nd Battleship Squadron, telling them to act immediately. Detour to surround the Germans. This time, I don't want any German battleship to escape." Lieutenant General David Beatty ordered. According to Lieutenant General David Beatty, the fleet under his command is fully 3 times the size of the German Navy's breaching fleet. Under such circumstances, there is absolutely no problem in fighting a war of annihilation. Yes, General. The British Navy acted immediately. 3 Invincible-class battle cruisers, 3 Indefatigable-class battle cruisers, plus 2 Lion-class and Tiger battle cruisers, and 4 Iron Duke-class battle cruisers, immediately follow the scheduled plan to attack the German Navy's breaking fleet. This time, Lieutenant General David Beatty ambitiously wanted to eliminate all of the German Navy's breaching fleet so that the threat of the German Navy's breaching fleet to the British sea transport line could be resolved in one fell swoop. The menacing British Navy began to surround its prey point at this time. The German Navy also regarded the British Navy as its prey. On the battle cruiser Moltke, Lieutenant General Spee looked at the fleet of the British Navy rushing towards him with a smile on his face. Order. All the ships to prepare for battle. The British are here, and we have at least an hour or more to finish them off. I really want to see, after the British reinforcement arrive, what we see is what kind of expression will a sinking warship have. Lieutenant General Spee said. Haha. All the German naval officers in the command tower burst out laughing. Although, they already knew that this was a conspiracy against the German Navy's breaking fleet. However, they don't care. Because they are already ready. This time, the British will definitely pay a heavy price. General Hipper called. He asked whether to send to capital ships to chase the British merchant ships fleeing south. A staff officer reported. Lieutenant General Spee thought for a while, then shook his head. Ignore the British merchant ships for the time being. Let's focus on the main force first and deal with the 4 British battleships King George v. After all, no one knows how many reinforcement the British have prepared for this time. Try to get rid of the 4 King George V class battleships before the British reinforcement arrive, so as to ensure that they will not be at a great disadvantage in the following naval battles. As for the British merchant ships, it would be the best to be able to sink them. Even if they run away this time, as long as the British Navy loses, those merchant ships will be meaningless. Chapter 235. The battle begins. The duel between Germany and Britain in this world war is the most important duel between the Navy. The German Navy wants to challenge the supremacy of the British Navy. William II wanted to lead the German Empire, to replace the British Empire, and become the hegemony of the world. So, in the war between the two countries, the outcome of the Navy is the most important. As for the others, they all serve this purpose. Including this time, the German Navy knew that the British Navy had set a trap, but it still broken without hesitation, hoping to take advantage of this opportunity to severely damage the British Navy, so as to fight for a better future for the German Navy in the final decisive battle. Big advantage. With both sides intentionally doing it, the navies of the two countries once again launched a fierce confrontation. King George V class battleship, with a full load displacement of more than 25,000 tons, is equipped with 5 double-mounted 45 caliber 343mm main guns, and has a maximum speed of 21 knots. This is a standard battleship of the line of battle, that is, a battleship used to output firepower on the battle line during the decisive battle of the fleet. The speed is not very fast, but the firepower is very strong, and the armor defense is not weak. Of course, the British Navy's shipbuilding thinking has made their warships never comparable to the German Navy in terms of defense. Even facing the battle cruisers of the German Navy, the battleships of the British Navy can't take advantage of any defense. The waterline armor of the King George V class battleship is 305mm thick at most. The deck armor is 25mm to 102mm. The turret armor is 280mm. The gun seat armor is 254mm. And the conning tower armor is 280mm. This kind of defense is indeed not strong. This is why the warships of the British Navy can carry large caliber naval guns with a small displacement attack. Let the **** Germans see how powerful the Royal Navy is. Let them know that the sea power belongs to the British Empire, and no one can take away the sea power of the Royal Navy. Rear Admiral Carroll roared loudly. The 4 King George V class battleships of the Royal Navy lined up in a battle line and rushed towards the German Navy, ready to fight. On the other side, the German Navy is also ready for battle. 3 Moltke-class battle cruisers and 3 Blücher-class battle cruisers lined up in a battle line began to assign combat tasks. The Moltke dealt with the British King George V, the Goeben dealt with the British Centurion, the Sedlitz and the Brave. Blücher against the British Audacity, von der Tann and Leopold against the British Ajax. In the shortest possible time, sink the British battleship and win the naval battle. Lieutenant General Spee ordered. All ships received orders and began to make adjustments. Because the German Navy has 6 battle cruisers, which is superior in number, the few battle cruisers located in the rear of the battle line can fight 2 against 1. Although, the Blücher-class battle cruiser is equipped with a 305mm main gun. However, the 305mm main gun with 50 times the caliber is no worse than the 343mm main gun with 45 times the caliber of the British Navy in terms of armor-piercing ability. Even because of the shell problem, it was able to suppress the British 343mm main gun. Therefore, even if the Blücher-class battle cruiser and the King George V-class battleship of the British Navy confront each other, they will not lose the wind. What's more, 2 ships are still fighting 1. In this battle, the German Navy's breaking fleet can be said to have a huge advantage. Of course, the only uncertain factor is when the reinforcement from the British Navy will arrive on the battlefield. If they arrived at the battlefield before the German Navy's breaking fleet severely damaged the 4 King George V battleships, the situation would not be so favorable to the German Navy. Therefore, before launching the attack, the German Navy scouted for 4 weeks with seaplanes to ensure that there were no other warships of the British Navy within an hour's voyage. As for the farther places, there is no further investigation. An hour may already determine the outcome of this naval battle. Before launching the attack, Lieutenant General Spee did not ask to inform Admiral Reinhard Scheer. The 4 Der Flieger-class battle cruisers are still cruising 2 hours north of the broken fleet, waiting for an opportunity. The battle lines of the 2 sides are constantly approaching. Although, the battle cruisers of the German Navy are faster and easier to seize favorable shooting positions. But Major General Carroll is not a young commander in a battle situation, but an experienced commander. He knows that, if you fight for speed, the battleship King George V is absolutely incomparable to the battle cruiser of the opponent. Therefore, he could only turn ahead of time, making the German Navy's plan to break through the fleet fall through. After some probing, Lieutenant General Spee had no choice but to give up grabbing a favorable position. He knew that, if it kept going like this, it would be difficult to find the right moment, and time is passing by little. He can be sure that the reinforcement of the British Navy must have arrived quickly. The longer the time drags on, the more unfavorable it will be to the German Navy. Order the fleet to keep its course, and all ships are ready to fire. The seaplane pays attention to providing calibration for the fleet. Lieutenant General Spee ordered. The high seas fleet of the German Navy is no longer trying to seize a favorable position, and at the same time, the speed of the fleet has also begun to slow down. If the speed is too fast, the battleship will be more bumpy, which will affect the hit rate of the battleship. The Germans are smart. Seeing the actions of the German Navy, Rear Admiral Carroll had a smile on his face, as if he had won the battle just now. Order all ships, and prepare for battle. Use your naval guns to sink the German warships and let them know that the Royal Navy is powerful. Major General Carroll's fighting spirit was high. Long live the Royal Navy. Sink the German warship. The officers and soldiers of the Royal Navy shouted loudly. The distance between the battle lines of the 2 sides is getting closer and closer, and soon, it will be within 15,000 meters. Fire. Lieutenant General Spee took the lead in giving the order to fire. Although, this distance is a bit far, especially for 305mm naval guns, the distance is too far and the shells are too light. When shooting distant targets, the hit rate will drop significantly. Boom. 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 The battle cruiser Moltke opened fire first, and 350 caliber 343mm main guns began test firing. The other 5 battle cruisers followed closely behind and started firing. Chapter 236. Right to boom. Ho. 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 The heavy shells, under the action of huge kinetic energy, flew towards the target more than 10 kilometers away. The body of the shell and the air rubbed violently, producing a sharp whistling sound. Boom. 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 The shell slammed into the sea fiercely, exploded, and splashed a column of water as high as 10 meters. On the command tower of the battleship King George V, Rear Admiral Carroll watched coldly as the battle cruisers of the German Navy started shooting first, but he was completely unmoved. Because of the distance, the German Navy's shooting was not effective. The nearest impact point was 300 to 400 meters away. Seeing this scene, Rear Admiral Carroll's face appeared even more. A sarcastic smile. Stupid Germans, is this all they can do? I really don't know how the battlecruiser Lion was sunk by them at that time. Perhaps those guys on the battlecruiser Lion were unlucky, alright. I hope this time, God will be on our side. Major General Carroll thought secretly. In naval battles, luck is very important. As long as you are lucky, even if you are at a disadvantage, you may have a chance to turn defeat into victory. After the first round of test firing, the German Navy's break-off fleet did not immediately conduct the second round of test firing, but to make adjustments. The seaplane began in charge of the school building, was right above the head of the British fleet, reporting the observed impact points to its own fleet. The gunners of the own fleet will adjust the shooting position according to the point of impact, so that they can achieve better bombardment effects in the next round of bombardment. Boom. 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 After 3 full minutes, the German Navy's fleet carried out the second round of shelling. Although this round of shelling still failed to achieve a hit. However, the point of impact was getting closer. Next, the German Navy fired a few more rounds. Although they still failed to score a hit, the nearest point of impact was less than 100 meters away from the British Navy's warship. This is already a dangerous distance. Maybe, as long as one is lucky, one can get a hit. The smile on Major General Carroll's face had also disappeared completely, and he also felt that something was wrong. Damn, is the German technology so good? It's only been a few rounds of test firing, and it has such an effect. Even the Royal Navy has absolutely no advantage over them. Rear Admiral Carroll exclaimed in my heart. General, there is something above our heads. It seems to be a German plane. An officer shouted. Major General Carroll rushed out of the command tower and looked into the sky with binoculars. Sure enough, in the sky, there were 2 planes of the German Navy. They are more than 1,000 meters away from the sea. Coupled with the energy of the British Navy, it was completely focused on naval warfare, so they were not found. Damn. No wonder the German bombardment is getting more and more accurate. It turns out that 2 more planes are providing them with artillery guidance. The Germans are really despicable. They can only use this method to fight the Royal Navy. They have no guts at all. Fight us upright. Major General Carroll was a little out of breath. However, there is no way at all. The battleships of the British Navy are not equipped with anti-aircraft weapons, so there is no other way but to shake their fists and curse a few words. General, what should we do now? If this posture continues, the Germans will probably get it soon. An officer said with some concern. Major General Carroll frowned. The distance between the 2 sides is about 12,000 meters. Originally, he wanted to shorten the distance to 10,000 meters, which would be more conducive to the Royal Navy's artillery skills. However, now it seems that the wait can no longer be continued. I'm afraid their battleship will be hit before the distance is shortened to 10,000 meters. At that time, the Germans will definitely not let them get closer as they wish. After all, the battle cruisers of the German Navy are faster, and it is almost impossible for the battleships of the British Navy to forcibly shorten the distance between the 2 sides. Order all ships, and prepare to fire. I believe that the quality of the Royal Navy is far stronger than that of the Germans, and they definitely cannot make up for it with 2 small toy-like planes. Rear Admiral Carroll ordered. Yes, General. The communications officer immediately conveyed Rear Admiral Carroll's order to the ships. Boom. 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 The battleship King George V took the lead in firing, and the 5 double-mounted 45 caliber 343mm main guns let out a roar that shook the sky. One after another, the heavy shells roared and smashed into the battleships of the German Navy. Although, the battleships of the British Navy also failed to score hits in this round of shooting. However, their impact point was closer to the German fleet. It can be seen that in this era, the quality of the Royal Navy is definitely not covered. The other 3 battleships of the British Navy soon joined the shooting. The battle lines of the two sides launched fierce shooting at a distance of more than 10 kilometers. Although both sides are only testing fire, the artillery fire is still very fierce. On the sea, the cannons rumbled like thunder. Cannonballs exploded in the sea one after another, splashing high water columns, as if a storm was raging. Boom. 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 The battle cruiser Blucher scored its first hit during the test firing at 10:24 in the morning. Or 305mm artillery shell directly hit the side of the British Navy's Bold battleship. Although, the side armor of the battleship Bold is as thick as 305mm. However, in the face of the shells fired by the 305mm main gun with a caliber of 50 times, it still could not resist it. The artillery shell penetrated the side armor of the battleship Audacious, blasting a big hole and blowing away a secondary gun at the same time. But it's a pity that the place where it was penetrated was above the waterline of the battleship Audacious. If this shell hit below the waterline, this blow alone would be enough to make the battleship Bold pay a heavy price. Even if it doesn't sink, it will be severely damaged and even affect its combat effectiveness. But even so, the officers and soldiers of the German Navy cheered. The captain of the battle cruiser Blucher directly issued an order to focus fire. 3 triple-mounted 50 caliber 305mm main guns began to fire at the maximum rate of fire. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Guild Wars. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Rear Admiral Carroll yelled at the sight of the Audacious being hit. Fortunately, the Boldness reported later that it was not hit critically, which made Carroll heave a sigh of relief. If a battleship is lost just at the beginning of the battle will not be fought at all. Damn the Germans, their battle cruisers are indeed very powerful. Although it was just a fight, Rear Admiral Carroll has already seen the strength of the German Navy, and it is indeed not to be underestimated. But the more this is the case, the more the British Navy must defeat the German Navy. Only in this way can the sea power of the British Empire be maintained. Very well, guys, it was just a little bit. We were almost able to severely damage a British battleship. On the battle cruiser Blucher, Lieutenant General Hipper encouraged the gunners. Although, the shot just now did not seriously damage the battleship Bold, which is a bit of a pity. But Lieutenant General Hipper believes that, as long as the first hit is made, more hits will be made in the future. The whole ship focuses fire. The captain of the Blucher gave the order to focus fire. Although, the battle cruiser Blucher did not straddle the Bold, but being able to hit the Boldness just now shows that there is no problem with their shooting ZHUN. Boom. 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 The 3 triple-mounted 50 caliber 305mm main guns of the battle cruiser Blucher began to fire violently. Every salvo will fire 9 shells, greatly increasing the hit rate. Maybe it was because of the poor luck of the British, or the Audacity was too unlucky. After the battle cruiser Blucher scored a hit, the battle cruiser said let's also hit the Bold. During the test firing, or 343mm artillery shell hit the fortress of the Audacious. The deck armor couldn't resist such heavy shells at all, and was easily pierced. The shell exploded inside the ship, blowing up several cabins inside, and causing a raging fire at the same time. Although it did not hit the vital position of the Audacity, the sailors of the Audacity could only control the damage as much as possible, in order to avoid further losses. Being hit twice in a row, the morale of the sailors on the battleship Audacious fell to the bottom. Although their shelling continued, their aim was getting lower and lower. At the same time, the time required to shoot once is getting longer and longer. This is undoubtedly very beneficial to the German Navy. Once the battleship Bold is sunk, they can readjust the target of the attack and use 6 battle cruisers to besiege the remaining 3 battleships of the British Navy. In this case, the chances of winning quickly are even greater. Rear Admiral Carroll also noticed the problem with the Bold and couldn't help frowning. The guys on the Audacity, what are they doing? Didn't they just get hit by the Germans twice? They didn't get sunk, so there's nothing to be discouraged about. Let them give me courage and keep fighting. This naval battle has just begun. Major General Carroll ordered. Yes, General. The communications officer hurried to send a telegram. However, the performance of the battleship Bold still hasn't improved much. In this naval battle, they seemed to be playing the role of soy sauce until they were finally sunk by the German Navy. At 10:43, the battlecruiser Leopold of the German Navy straddled the battleship Ajax of the British Navy. Afterwards, the whole ship switched to concentrated fire shooting. The situation has become even more unfavorable to the British Navy. At 10:52, the Centurion of the British Navy was full of luck. In this round of test firing, a straddle shot was formed. Subsequently, the Centurion began to focus fire. However, only 2 minutes later, the battlecruiser Goeben fought back and also formed a straddle shot. The two warships began to shoot at each other with maximum firepower. As for who can get the hit first, it may depend on God's will. Damn. How could this happen? Major General Carroll seemed somewhat unacceptable to such a result. The battle has just begun, but they are already completely suppressed by the German Navy. This was absolutely unexpected for him. Although they have 2 fewer warships than the German Navy, he believes that the excellent quality of the officers and soldiers of the Royal Navy can fully make up for the disadvantage in numbers. When Major General Carroll was distressed by the current situation, good luck always came to the general inadvertently. It was as if God had suddenly favored them. Boom. Boom. 2 explosions sounded in succession, and 2 huge fireballs rose from the battleship Moltke, the flagship of the German fleet. In this round of test firing of the King George V battleship, he actually scored 2 hits at once. This is undoubtedly a burst of luck. A hit point was located on the side of the Moltke battlecruiser. In the middle of the hull, the hull was blown out, and a bunch of secondary battery shells were detonated, igniting a fire. The sailors of the battlecruiser Moltke immediately began to carry out loss control. Another hit point was the main turret at the stern of the ship. However, sadly, although it hit the main turret, it failed to penetrate it, and the shell exploded outside. The scattered shrapnel killed the sailors on the deck, and at the same time, the huge power of the explosion also shocked the German sailors in the turret to death. But such injuries are nothing to a huge battlecruiser. Report the loss. Lieutenant General Spee roared. General, the side was hit, and there is no major problem. The number 3 main turret was hit, but it was not penetrated. The gunner needs to be replaced. The staff officer quickly reported. Lieutenant General Spee breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. Order all units to conduct loss control immediately. Number 3 main turret, continue to fire in the shortest possible time. Lieutenant General Spee ordered. Yes, General. Long live the British Empire. On the battleship King George V, the officers and soldiers of the British Navy have already cheered. God bless us, sink the **** Germans. Major General Carroll also had a smile on his face. However, when the gunpowder smoke cleared and the battlecruiser Moltke was almost intact, the expression on his face became stiff all of a sudden. Chapter 238, can't stand it anymore. God, how is this possible? We obviously scored 2 hits, but we only caused minimal damage to the opponent. Major General Carroll looked like he had seen a ghost. In his opinion, the 2 shells scored a hit, which could at least cause a lot of damage to the battlecruiser of the German Navy. In particular, there was another shell that hit the main turret of the battlecruiser Moltke. If the main turret can be penetrated, not only can the main turret be destroyed, but it can even further cause greater damage. However, the final result was completely beyond his expectations. Damn, are the defenses of German warships so strong? If they are all like this, then there is no way to fight this battle. Major General Carroll felt a very bad feeling in his heart. In fact, the reason why the shells fired by the battleship King George V could not penetrate the armor of the battlecruiser Moltke was of course, because the turret armor of the battlecruiser Moltke was very thick. Another very important reason is that there are problems with the shells fired by the warships of the British Navy. The fuses are too sensitive and will explode upon collision, which greatly weakens the armor-piercing ability of the shells. After all, for a battleship or battlecruiser with thick armor, if you want to seriously damage the opponent, you have to penetrate its armor. However, the shells of the British Navy exploded before penetrating the armor, so naturally they could not cause more damage to the opponent. The battle began to become more intense. However, the British Navy was very aggrieved. Their warships are battleships. But they have another feeling, as if their own battleship is a battlecruiser with weak armor, while the opponent's battlecruiser is a battlecruiser with thick armor. This is a consequence of the different shipbuilding ideas of Britain and Germany. The German Navy focused on the defense and survivability of warships. The British Navy, on the other hand, sacrificed defense and increased the firepower and the speed of its warships. However, in naval battles, you must first save yourself, so that you can better kill the enemy, while ensuring its own strong defense. The German Navy also made breakthroughs in firepower and speed. This allowed the warships of the German Navy to completely suppress the warships of the British Navy, and naturally gained an advantage in naval battles. Boom. 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 Naval battles have become more and more intense, even though the British Navy has fallen into a disadvantage. However, they are still insisting on fighting back. The German Navy, on the other hand, hopes to be able to injure as much as possible or even sink the battleships of the British Navy while occupying an advantage, so as to turn its external advantages into substantive advantages. Boom. The battleship Audacious was hit again. This time, the command tower was hit. A 305mm artillery shell hit the conning tower hard. The armor with a thickness of 280mm is simply unable to resist the shells fired by the main gun with a caliber of 50 times. The final result was that the armor was penetrated, and the shell exploded in the conning tower. The violent explosion killed all the officers in the command tower, including the captain. This caused confusion in the command of the battleship Bold. The battlecruisers Blucher and said, let's seize this opportunity, and launched more intense shelling. In the next 5 minutes, the battleship Bold was once again hit by a full 6 shells, 2 of which were 343mm shells and 4 of which were 305mm shells. A big hole was blown out at the waterline of the battleship Audacity, and seawater began to pour into the battleship frantically. In addition, the steering gear at the stern was also directly blown up, and the seawater poured into the battleship from the fracture. The superstructure of the hull was also destroyed in the explosion, and a raging fire ignited. After being hit many times, the fate of the battleship Bold came to an end. For a huge battleship with a displacement of 25,000 tons, it is undoubtedly very difficult to be sunk. Of course, if the vitals are hit, that's another story. General, the Boldness suffered heavy damage, and requested to abandon the ship. The communications officer reported to Rear Admiral Carroll. Major General Carroll closed his eyes in pain, did not speak, but nodded. Before the sinking, a considerable part of the sailors on the battleship Bold evacuated to the lifeboats, but there were still many people who did not have time to evacuate in time, and sank into the cold Atlantic seabed together with the battleship. The doom of the British Navy did not end with the sinking of the Bold. Only 5 minutes later, the battleship Centurion followed in the footsteps of the battleship Bold. In this round of salvo fired from the battleship Goeben, 2 shells scored hits. A shell hit a funnel of the Centurion. The chimney fell, knocking out number 3 turret, and making it impossible to fire. Another shell directly killed the battleship Centurion. This shell hit the number 4 main turret on the stern of the battleship Centurion. The 280mm thick turret armor looked so weak in front of the 343mm shells, it was easily penetrated like paper. What's more terrible is that at this moment, there are 2 343mm shells and hundreds of kilograms of bullets in the gun bore. After the shells exploded, both the shells and the bombs were martyred as a result. The fire spread to the ammunition depot under the barrel, and the fire door did not close in time due to a malfunction. So, the tragedy happened like this. Under the burning of the fire, hundreds of 343mm shells in the ammunition depot exploded. Boom. An earth-shattering explosion sounded on the sea, and the battleship Centurion was lifted out of the water during the explosion, and then hit the sea heavily. When the gunpowder smoke dissipated, it could be clearly seen that the stern part of the battleship Centurion had disappeared, as if it had been bitten by some monster. The sea frantically poured into the hull of the Centurion battleship, causing the battleship to sink. In the end, the battleship Centurion sank into the Atlantic Ocean directly with the stern down and the bow up. After the battleships Bold and Centurion were sunk one after another, the situation became more and more unfavorable to the British Navy. On the battlefield, they only had 2 battleships left. The 6 battlecruisers of the German Navy were almost intact. Chapter 239, The Arrival of Reinforcement. General, the Centurion has sunk. What should we do now? Everyone looked at Major General Carroll, waiting for his decision. 2 battleships were sunk in succession, making the British Navy now in an absolute desperate situation. The 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy were also hit. However, they were all minor injuries, which did not have much impact on their combat effectiveness. This also made the gap between the 2 sides on the battlefield further widened. The 2 British battleships will face the siege of 6 German battle cruisers. It can be seen from the previous battles how powerful the battle cruisers of the German Navy are. Therefore, it is obvious what kind of result this will have. Send a telegram to General Betty, telling him that we are about to fail. If we can't arrive at the battlefield within half an hour, I'm afraid we will have to collect the corpse. Major General Carroll ordered. Originally, David Betty hoped that Major General Carroll would be able to last at least 2 hours. In this case, he can deploy calmly. But how did they know that the 4 King George V class battleships could not hold on so quickly under the siege of 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy? Yes, General. The communications officer immediately went to send a telegram. They all hope that the reinforcement can arrive as soon as possible. Otherwise, they might follow in the footsteps of the battleships Centurion and Bold and go to the bottom of the Atlantic to feed the fish. On the other side, the German Navy has already begun to celebrate victory. Lieutenant General Hipper, regardless of the danger of the battlefield, went directly to the battle cruiser Moltke, a transportation boat, and discussed the next battle with Lieutenant General Spee. Redistribute the strike targets. Try to kill the remaining 2 British battleships in the shortest possible time. Lieutenant General Hipper said excitedly. Lieutenant General Spee nodded. He was already very satisfied with being able to achieve such a great result in this battle. However, any general of the Navy would probably not refuse such a good opportunity to expand the results of the battle. British reinforcement must be on their way. Maybe they will arrive soon. If they can sink the remaining 2 British battleships before their reinforcement arrive, even if we have to retreat, when the time comes, we will make money this time. Lieutenant General Spee said. If all 4 King George V class battleships of the British Navy can be sunk in one fell swoop in this battle, this is already a major victory. After all, if the decisive sea battle between the 2 sides has not yet begun, if the German Navy can score 0-5, this will definitely be a serious blow to the British Navy. In future naval battles, the possibility of the German Navy winning will also be greater. May God bless the German Empire. Lieutenant General Hipper said. The German Navy redistributed the strike targets. 3 Moltke-class battle cruisers besieged the British Navy's King George V battleship. Blücher-class battle cruisers besieged the Ajax battleship. Boom. 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 The violent shelling continued. Shells continued to drop from the sky, and water jets splashed around the battleships King George V and Ajax. These 2 huge battleships, like being in a storm, may capsize at any time. Beyond the battlefield, 3 battlecruiser detachments and 1 battleship detachment of the British Navy are rushing to the battlefield. All 3 battlecruiser squadrons have increased their speed to 25 knots. Even the 4 Iron Duke battleships increased their speed to 20 knots. On the battlecruiser Tiger, Lieutenant General David Beatty had a serious expression on his face. The German Navy's breaking fleet took the bait, which did not surprise him. He knew that those German naval destroyers cruising in the Atlantic Ocean were like hungry wolves on the prairie. When they saw fat girls prey, they would definitely pounce on them. However, the current battle situation seems to be somewhat unfavorable for the British Navy. The 4 King George V class battleships led by Major General Carroll have been suppressed, even at a disadvantage. This made David Betty very anxious, for fear that the tragedy of the sinking of the battlecruiser Lion last time would happen again. Although, the defense of the King George V class battleship is much stronger than that of the Lion class battlecruiser. But Lieutenant General David Betty still had no confidence in his heart. General, an urgent telegram from General Carroll. A staff officer sent a telegram to Lieutenant General David Betty with a look of panic. After Lieutenant General David Betty read the telegram, his face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He never expected that in such a short period of time, 2 battleships were sunk. This is undoubtedly a serious blow to the British Navy. No wonder Major General Carroll urgently asked for help. Under such circumstances, he would also be unable to hold on. Order the battle cruiser squadrons to speed up. They must arrive at the battlefield within half an hour. Let the first battle cruiser squadrons also speed up. Our enemy is stronger than we imagined. David Beatty, the Lieutenant General, ordered. Yes, General. The communications officer immediately issued Lieutenant General David Beatty's order. The 9 battle cruisers increased their speed again, raising their speed to over 26 knots. If it weren't for the fear of causing irreparable damage to the boiler of the battleship, they would continue to pressurize the ventilation to further increase the speed of the battleship. The 4 Iron Duke battleships are also starting to speed up. It's just that, as a first-class standard battleship, its maximum speed is only 21.25 knots. Being able to maintain a speed of 21 knots is already commendable, but now it is extremely urgent. If they cannot arrive in time, the remaining 2 King George V class battleships may also be sunk. Therefore, Lieutenant General David Beatty had no choice but to order to go at full speed. On the battlefield, the 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy are still relying on their absolute superiority in numbers to besiege the remaining 2 battleships of the British Navy. The battleships King George V and Ajax have been hit many times. However, none of them were hit. Report. The seaplane found the British warships. They came from the south, east and west respectively, and there were 9 battle cruisers. Chapter 240, Furious Betty. During the fierce battle, the seaplanes of the German Navy also scouted around the battlefield. Therefore, they were able to discover that the reinforcement of the British Navy had rushed to the battlefield at the first time. However, because the 4 Iron Duke battleships rushed to the battlefield from the north at the same time, because the speed was too slow, it fell behind, so it was not discovered by the seaplane in time. British reinforcement are still here. They actually dispatched 9 battle cruisers, coming from 3 directions. Obviously, they want to catch us all. Lieutenant General Hip aside. It's time to come. If we don't come, we will eat all the bait. However, do the British think they can defeat us by sending only these 9 battle cruisers? That would be too small for us. Lieutenant General Spelly sneered. Indeed, with the strength of the German Navy's breaking fleet, it is obviously impossible to defeat them with just 9 battle cruisers. The previous naval battle has already proved everything. This is especially true when the British Navy's invincible class battle cruisers and indefatigable class battle cruisers have relatively *** combat effectiveness. Hurry up and sink the British King George V and Ajax. Then, have a good fight with the British battle cruisers. Let them know that they're war. How big is the gap between the cruisers and us? Lieutenant General Hipper was also full of confidence. Although, there were 9 British battle cruisers that appeared, 3 more than them. However, don't forget that they also have 3 powerful Derfliner class battle cruisers ready to go into battle at any time. The Derfliner class battle cruiser is a powerful battle cruiser equipped with a 380mm main gun. It not only has powerful firepower, but also has amazing defense. Facing the battle cruisers of the British Navy, they can be easily beaten. Lieutenant General Spee also laughed, as if seeing the scene where his own Derfliner class battle cruisers ravaged those British battle cruisers. Order the ships to continue shooting. In addition, report the arrival of the British reinforcement to General Scheer. Lieutenant General Spee ordered. Boom. 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 The 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy kept firing. The dense shell slammed into the 2 battleships of the British Navy. Such intensive firepower made the British sailors on the 2 battleships miserable. They kept praying to God that the shells would not hit them. General Betty told us to hold on for another half an hour. They will arrive at the battlefield within half an hour. A communications officer reported to Major General Carroll. Half guys, if we persist for another half an hour, we will win. At that time, we will definitely be able to kill all these Germans who are showing off their might. Major General Carroll finally breathed a sigh of relief. They would be much safer if reinforcement arrived in time. Although the current situation is very critical, it shouldn't be a big problem if you persist for half an hour. Long live the Royal Navy. The officers and soldiers of the British Navy cheered. This makes them seem to have a kind of joy for the rest of their lives. It's just that God always seems to like to play tricks on people. Before the joy of the officers and men of the British Navy was sold, tragedy struck. The battleship Ajax was in a very embarrassing situation under the siege of 3 Blücher-class battle cruisers. The hull has been hit in many places. Even though the Blücher-class battle cruiser is equipped with a 305mm main gun, the shells fired by the main gun with a caliber of 50 times have a strong armor-piercing ability. The armor of the Ajax battleship simply can't stand the powerful shells. The reason why the current battleship Ajax has not been seriously injured is entirely due to good luck. Otherwise, it might have been sunk long ago. However, good luck always runs out. God can't always bless this battleship. Boom. Boom. The battlecruiser von der Tann performed mediocrely in this battle and did not have any outstanding records. This made the naval officers and soldiers on the battleship very upset. However, good luck seems to have come all at once. In this round of salvo, the battlecruiser von der Tann scored a crucial hit. A 305mm artillery shell hit the middle of the battleship Ajax. The shell penetrated the armor of the battleship and hit the boiler room of the battleship. After the bomb exploded, the huge power blasted the entire boiler room into a mess. The high temperature steam in the boiler leaked out, killing the British sailors inside in an instant. At the same time, it also greatly affected the power of the battleship. The speed of the battleship began to slow down. Good job. Lieutenant General Hipper saw this scene and couldn't help clapping his hands. In a fierce naval battle, once a warship loses its power, it will almost have to wait to die. This is especially true when under siege by the enemy. 3 Blücher-class battle cruisers took this opportunity to launch a more violent attack on the Ajax battleship. For a moment, shells fell like raindrops around the battleship Ajax. Rear Admiral Carroll on the battleship King George V closed his eyes in pain. He knew that the battleship Ajax was finished this time. God, is the British Empire really going to lose this time? Major General Carroll couldn't help asking such a question in his heart. You know, as the maritime hegemon, the Navy of the British Empire has always been the #1 in the world. But after the outbreak of this war, the Royal Navy has been suppressed by the German Navy. Although the decisive battle between the two sides has not yet begun, the Royal Navy has already lost 3 capital ships, and now it is about to lose the 4th ship. In contrast, the German Navy did not lose a single ship. This gap is really too big. Boom. The battleship Ajax was hit again, and the superstructure was already on fire. The sailors above have already begun to flee for their lives. They themselves have decided to abandon this battleship. The battleship Ajax is like a shell magnet, attracting shells from all directions. In just a few minutes, the battleship Ajax was hit more than 10 times. The fragile hull could no longer hold on, and broke directly. In just 5 minutes, the battleship sank into the sea. General, I just got the news that the Ajax has sunk. On the battlecruiser Tiger, the staff officer reported to Lieutenant General David Beatty. Arsehole. Damn the Germans, you have already sunk our 4 battleships. Today, you must pay with your blood. David Beatty said furiously. Chapter 241, Retreat. General, what should we do now? An officer asked. Other officers looked at David Beatty with worry in their eyes. The previous self-confidence seems to have disappeared now. Before implementing the plan this time, almost everyone was full of confidence, thinking that they would definitely win. After all, for this operation they mustered 9 battle cruisers and 8 battleships. But now, the extraordinary performance of the German Navy's breaking fleet has shocked them greatly. Under the siege of the 4 King George V class battleships of the German Navy, 3 ships have been sunk in such a short period of time, and the remaining one is also struggling. Whether we can persist until the arrival of reinforcement depends on God's will. The Germans are so fierce, can they really beat the Germans? Besides, even if the Germans are defeated, their own losses are not small. Therefore, even if it is a victory, it will be a tragic victory at most, not a big victory. Lieutenant General David Beatty also couldn't help being silent for a few seconds. Of course he knew what the officers he also did not expect, that the loss this time would be so large, and the 4 King George V class battleships were almost lost. Such a loss cannot even be accounted to the Ministry of the Navy. However, at this point in the battle, is there any possibility of retreating? If you retreat, it will only make the previous losses in vain. So, no matter what, Lieutenant General David Betty can only bite the bullet and continue. No matter how high the price is, he must solve the German Navy's broken fleet. In this way, the previous losses will not be in vain, and there will be an explanation for the cabinet in the Ministry of the Navy. Command the fleet to move forward at full speed. This time, we must kill all the German battle cruisers. Lieutenant General David Beatty ordered. If you can't win again this time, the consequences will be very serious. If it is not done well, even he will be implicated. Yes, General. The officer immediately conveyed Lieutenant General David Betty's order to each fleet. The remaining 9 battle cruisers and 4 battleships of the British Navy are already for battle. On the battlefield, the siege of the battleship King George V by 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy continued. 6 battle cruisers, 27 343mm main guns and 27 305mm main guns are so powerful that the besieged battleship King George V is in a very dangerous situation. Quick, we don't have much time. We must get rid of the last British battleship. Lieutenant General Spee said through gritted teeth. May God bless us and kill the British. Lieutenant General Hipper also murmured. Boom. Or 305mm artillery shell hit the battleship King George V, and a large hole was blown on the deck at the stern of the ship. The shrapnel swept across the entire rear deck, killing many sailors of the British Navy. A minute later, another 343mm shell hit the battleship King George V. This shell successfully hit the side of the battleship King George V and blew a hole near the waterline. Although the sailors of the British Navy tried their best to control the loss, they still failed to plug this loophole and had to close a nearby watertight compartment. In this case, although the sinking of the battleship was avoided, the battleship was slightly tilted due to excessive water intake. In the next 5 minutes, the battleship King George V was hit by several shells again. These shells left large and small scars on the hull of the King George V battleship. However, perhaps due to better luck, although it suffered heavy losses, it was not in danger of sinking. At this time, the reinforcement of the British Navy finally arrived on the battlefield. 9 battle cruisers bombarded the German Navy's breaking fleet from a long distance. Although, at such a long distance, it was difficult to get a hit, but it successfully interfered with the firing of the battleship King George V by the German Navy's breaking fleet. In order to avoid being surrounded by the British fleet, Lieutenant General Spee and Lieutenant General Hipper had to order the fleet to turn and let go of the battleship King George V after discussing. Although, it is a pity that the battleship King George V was not able to sink. But they have successfully damaged the battleship. It takes at least several months in the shipyard to restore combat effectiveness. It is already very good to be able to achieve the result of sinking 3 ships and severely damaging 1 in this battle. Everyone on the battleship King George V fell into ecstasy, watching the 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy go away. The uneasiness in their hearts finally disappeared. General, the Germans have retreated, and our reinforcements are here, the adjutant said to Major General Carroll excitedly. Major General Carroll did not speak. He knew that, although he could escape this time. However, such a large loss of the Royal Navy always has to find someone to be responsible. If he fails, he will become the scapegoat. General Betty called, let us withdraw from the battle and return to the mainland for repairs. The next battle will be handed over to them. They will sink the German warships and avenge those comrades who died, a communications officer said. Rear Admiral Carroll nodded. Order the fleet to turn and target Portsmouth Naval Port. The battleship King George V hobbled away from the battlefield with its broken hull. However, the battle did not end there. Instead, it develops in a more intense direction. The German Navy's break-off fleet has reassembled, and the 9 battle cruisers of the British fleet have also formed a battle line. The duel between the 2 sides is about to start again. To the north, 4 Iron Duke battleships are heading south quickly, and they are not far from the battlefield. However, the seaplane flying over their heads found them, and immediately reported to the fleet. Damn it, I knew the British wouldn't just send these few battle cruisers. Sure enough, there are 4 more powerful battleships. Lieutenant General Hipper cursed. Then shall we fight or retreat? Lieutenant General Spee asked. Lieutenant General Hipper thought for a while, and then said, retreat first, join General Scheer, and then have a decisive battle with them. Lieutenant General Spee nodded, and then ordered the fleet to retreat. Chapter 242, The Strongest Battle Cruiser. General, the Germans are gone. On the battleship Tiger, the British Navy immediately reported the situation to Lieutenant General David Beatty after discovering that the German Navy's High Seas Fleet was accelerating its retreat to the northwest. Damn it, the Germans had discovered our Iron Duke-class battleship. Lieutenant General David Beatty immediately noticed the problem and couldn't help cursing. Originally, he wanted to rely on his own 9 battle cruisers to entangle the 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy and 4 Iron Duke battleships to attack from the other side, trying to severely damage the German Navy's breaking fleet in one fell swoop. It is better to seize this opportunity and kill all the German Navy's breaking fleet. In this case, even if they lost 3 King George V class battleships in this naval battle, they still won a big victory. However, now it seems that his strategy has no way to succeed. The German Navy has seen through his plot. However, Lieutenant General David Beatty couldn't figure out how the German Navy saw through his plot so quickly. General, there are German seaplanes above our heads. The intelligence sent from the King George V also confirms this, a staff officer said with an ugly face. Lieutenant General David Beatty, his face suddenly turned black, as if the bottom of the pot was the same. It turned out that their actions were completely under the surveillance of the Germans. In this case, it would be impossible to engage in any conspiracy and tricks, and they could only confront the Germans in an upright manner. Order the fleet to speed up and not let the Germans run away. Lieutenant General David Beatty ordered. Yes, General. The 9 battle cruisers of the British Navy accelerated their pursuit of the German Navy's breaching fleet. On the other side, 4 Iron Duke battleships are also preparing to intercept the German Navy's breaking fleet. However, because of the speed of the ship, the possibility of their success will be very low. Continue to speed up, get rid of the British battleships, and pull their battle cruisers in circles. Report the situation here to General Scheer. Our Der Flieger class battle cruiser should also go to battle. Lieutenant General Spenny's face was full of smiles. Yeah. The British thought they had ambushed 9 battle cruisers and 4 battle cruisers and wanted to eat us. I'll see, after our Der Flieger class battle cruisers show up, what kind of expressions will they have? Lieutenant General Hipper also said with a smile. Everyone is full of confidence in the Der Flieger class battle cruiser. Indeed, the Der Flieger class battle cruiser is definitely the most powerful battle cruiser in the world today. The only one that can surpass him is probably the Mackensen class battle cruiser that has not yet entered service in the German Navy. With a 380mm main gun, thick armor, and a speed of up to 27.5 knots, it deserves to be the strongest battle cruiser. Compared with the thin-skinned and stuffed battle cruisers of the British Navy, it has an overwhelming advantage. Even, it is enough to compete with the most powerful battleship of the British Navy, the Queen Elizabeth class battleship that has not yet entered service. This is why the German Navy knew that this time it was a trap set by the British Navy, but it still had the courage to step in and count the British point at this moment. Outside the battlefield, the 3rd battle cruiser detachment composed of 3 Der Flieger class battle cruisers led by Admiral Reinhard Scheer, commander of the German Navy's High Seas Fleet, is heading south quickly. Because it has just been in service not long ago, the performance of the battleship can be fully utilized. The speed of these huge warships has been increased to 25 knots, but there is still room to spare. Admiral Reinhard Scheer stood in the command tower with a smile on his face, appearing to be in a good mood. He really has no choice but to be in a bad mood. In this operation, the German Navy has gained a considerable advantage. At a small cost, the breaking fleet sank 3 King George V class battleships of the British Navy and severely damaged the remaining 1. This is already a rare victory for the German Navy. Before the official decisive battle between the two sides, the German Navy had sunk 4 capital ships of the British Navy and severely damaged 1, making the German Navy probably not inferior to the British Navy in terms of the number of capital ships. And, the battle is not over. He believes that in the next battle, they will definitely be able to obtain results again. At that time, the gap between the two sides will be further widened. As long as we can severely damage the British Navy in this naval battle, then we will have a complete advantage. At that time, it will be impossible for the British to keep their position as the supremacy of the sea. Reinhard? Admiral Scheer thought excitedly. as the commander of the High Seas Fleet that led the German Navy to achieve this achievement. His name will surely be immortalized forever. Thinking of this, Admiral Reinhard Scheer was very excited. General, Admiral Spee and Admiral Hipper are calling. They are leading the fleet to retreat to the northwest. The British dispatched 9 battle cruisers and 4 battleships to pursue them. A communications officer reported 9 battle cruisers and 4 battleships. The British sent out all their battle cruisers. Which class of battleships are their battleships? Admiral Reinhard Scheer asked. According to its appearance, it should be a British Iron Duke class battleship. The officer replied. Iron Duke class battleship? Plus the previous King George V class battleship. The British can be regarded as dispatching the main force of the Navy this time. If all of their main forces are lost here, then the British will have no hope in the future decisive battle. Admiral Reinhard Scheer couldn't help but shine his eyes. Although, judging from the current strength comparison, the British warships still have an advantage in number. However, the performance of the warships of the German Navy far exceeds that of the British Navy. According to Admiral Reinhard Scheer, this is definitely a great opportunity to further change the balance of strength between the two sides, and it must not be missed just like this. Send a telegram to General Spee and General Hipper and ask them to hold back the British battlecruiser formation. As for the British battleship formation, leave it to us to deal with it. Admiral Reinhard Scheer ordered Road. Yes, General. Chapter 243. Good opportunity for combat. Admiral Reinhard Scheer ordered 3 Der Flieger class battleships to move south quickly, preparing to attack the 4 Iron Duke class battleships of the British Navy. The 9 battle cruisers of the British Navy's battlecruiser formation are dealt with by the 6 battle cruisers of the Broken Fleet. In this case, it is undoubtedly that this naval battle is divided into 2 battlefields. However, in these 2 battlefields, the German Navy does not have an advantage in the number of warships. Admiral Reinhard Scheer was 324, Lieutenant General Spee and Hipper were 629. If only from this aspect, the German Navy is undoubtedly at a disadvantage. However, in many cases, you can't just look at the number of battleships. The performance of the battleship is also very important. Der Flieger class battlecruisers are the most powerful battlecruisers in active service in the German Navy. Not only do they have powerful 3 triple mounted 50 caliber 380mm main guns, but they are also amazing in terms of defense. The main armor belt on the side, the armor of the turret and the conning tower, are all 350mm thick. The speed reached an astonishing 27.5 knots. Although the Iron Duke battleship is also the most powerful battleship in active service in the British Navy, it is far from comparable to the Der Flieger class battlecruiser in terms of various key performances. Its displacement is only 30,000 tons. The main guns are 5 double-mounted 343mm main guns with a caliber of 45 times, and the maximum speed is only 21.25 knots. In terms of defense, the thickness of the main armor belt is only 305mm. The thickness of the deck armor is 64mm. The armor of the turret is 280mm. The armor of the gun seat is 254mm. And the armor of the conning tower is 280mm. Battleships were supposed to be stronger than battlecruisers in terms of defense. However, under the German Navy's design philosophy of emphasizing defense and survivability, the defense of the German Navy's battlecruisers is also very strong, even surpassing the British Navy's battleships. Under such circumstances, even if the two sides shoot at each other, the German Navy will not be at a disadvantage. It is precisely because of this that Admiral Reinhard Scheer dared to use 3 Der Flieger class battlecruisers to deal with the 4 Iron Duke class battleships of the British Navy. He believes that the winner will be his. There is also a gap in the number of battlecruisers between the two sides, but the British Invincible class apostrophe battleships are too weak. In addition, the German Navy also has great confidence in the performance of its battlecruisers. Therefore, Admiral Reinhard Scheer believed that his 6 battlecruisers were completely capable of dealing with the 9 British battlecruisers. Even if you can't win for a while, it's not a big problem to hold them back. After one's own Der Flieger battlecruiser has dealt with the British Iron Duke battleship, it can attack the British battlecruiser formation. At that time, the German Navy will have the upper hand. After Admiral Reinhard Scheer's order was passed to Lieutenant General Spee and Lieutenant General Hipper, both of them couldn't help laughing. Haha, I knew that General Scheer would not let go of this good opportunity. Lieutenant General Hipper said with a smile on his face. Well, this is an opportunity to further widen the gap between us and the British Navy. As long as we seize this opportunity, we will win. Lieutenant General Spee nodded. In this case, let's create opportunities for General Scheer. Lieutenant General Hipper said, well, order the fleet to speed up. Let the distance between the British battle cruisers and the battleships be further opened, and then turn around and fight the British. I believe that our 6 battle cruisers can also be dealt with. 9 British battleships. Lieutenant General Spee gave the order. The 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy broke through the fleet and continued to sail at an accelerated speed. The battle cruiser formation of the British Navy is chasing after it. However, the speed of the 4 Iron Duke class battleships of the British Navy is far inferior to that of the battle cruisers. If this is the case, they will be left far behind. Damn it, do those Germans only know how to run away? When they bullied the 2nd battleship squadron before, why didn't they run away? A young rear admiral on the battleship Iron Duke said bitterly. His name was Robertson, and he was the commander of the 1st battleship squadron. Rear Admiral Carroll, the commander of the 2nd battleship squadron, which was almost wiped out by the German Navy's broken fleet before, was his good friend. Continue to pressurize the boiler and speed up. Major General Robertson ordered. General, our speed has been increased to the fastest. If we accelerate again, the service life of the boiler will be further reduced, and it may even explode. The chief engineer persuaded. Major General Robertson was taken aback for a moment, and then resignedly gave up. He didn't want the foremost powerful battleships of the Royal Navy to become iron coffins lying on the sea because of the boiler explosion. In that case, Admiral Jellicoe will definitely send him to a court-martial. I hope General Betty and the others can catch the German battle cruisers and tear them all to shreds. Those guys, like mice, really want to trample them all to death. Major General Robertson cursed. The high seas fleet of the German Navy has already caused huge losses to the United Kingdom. The sunk merchant ships alone have already caused the British to bleed. If the German fleet and those asterisk submarines are not dealt with, the British merchant ships will probably be lost. At that time, the British Isles will become dead islands. At this time, 3 huge warships appeared to their north. The shrill siren sounded immediately, and everyone was extremely nervous. What's going on? Major General Robertson asked. General, look north. Spot German battleships. What? Major General Robertson grabbed the binoculars and looked towards the sea to the north. When he saw the 3 battleships floating on the sea like hills, which seemed to be larger than his own battleships and had unusually thick barrels, he couldn't help but sucked in a breath of cold air. Oh my god. That's a German battleship. The Germans not only assembled the 6 battle cruisers here, they also have 3 more powerful battleships. This is a German conspiracy. Major General Robertson shouted Road. Quickly, send a telegram to General Betty. We have been fooled by the Germans have already prepared. We have encountered a powerful German warship. Major General Robertson ordered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. Riding a tiger is hard to get off. On the battlecruiser Tiger, Lieutenant General David Beatty's energy has been fully focused on the German Navy's high seas fleet. Now he has only one belief, that is to catch up with the German Navy's high seas fleet, sink them, and avenge the capital ships of the Royal Navy that were sunk in previous naval battles. General, do you want to continue to speed up? If you continue to speed up, I'm afraid the furnace won't last long. The chief engineer reported to Lieutenant General David Beatty with some concern. The German warships can persist. Why can't ours persist? Lieutenant General David Beatty frowned. The chief engineer opened his mouth, but still didn't say anything. Although the United Kingdom used steam turbines in the field of warships before Germany, Germany has come from behind in the fields of oil-fired boilers and steam turbines, and has now completely surpassed the United Kingdom. This allowed the British Navy to increase its speed at the expense of defense, while the German Navy could increase its speed as much as possible while ensuring defense. Judging from the performance of the battleships of both sides, the battle cruisers of the German Navy are no worse than the battle cruisers of the British Navy in terms of speed. This proves that Germany has succeeded in this regard. General, the Germans slowed down and started to turn. At this time, a staff officer reported, "What? The Germans are not going to flee, do they want to fight us?" Lieutenant General David Beatty immediately picked up the binoculars. At this moment, the German Navy's fleet is turning, and the turret is also turning, obviously preparing for battle. Is there any conspiracy in this? David Beatty secretly thought. He was not a suspicious person at first, but after suffering a series of big losses under the hands of the German Navy, he had to be cautious. Order the fleet to turn and prepare for battle. But at this juncture, Lieutenant General David Beatty can't afford to think too much. If you don't turn around, the German Navy will seize the T prefix. At that time, the British Navy will once again pay a heavy price. The British fleet also began to turn, and the two battle lines tended to be parallel. At the same time, the distance between them is constantly shortening. General Robertson reported that they encountered a powerful German fleet. The opponent has 3 extremely powerful warships, which should be equipped with main guns with a caliber of about 380 mm. A staff officer reported to Lieutenant General David Beatty, "What? 3 warships equipped with 380 mm main guns?" Lieutenant General David Beatty couldn't help but change his face. Damn the Germans. The Royal Navy has only just successfully developed a 381 mm main gun. The Germans have already served in battleships equipped with a 380 mm main gun. They have once again walked in front of the Royal Navy. The intelligence department, those guys should be pulled out and shot. Don't they know that this will kill us? Lieutenant General David Beatty was furious. Indeed, the British intelligence agencies did not obtain much useful information when collecting information on the German Navy. Of course, the main reason is that the German Navy's anti-espionage work has achieved results, and all the secrecy work has been done well, which has enabled these powerful warships of the German Navy to keep secret until now. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve such a great success on the battlefield. General Robertson asked for instructions. What should we do next? Lieutenant General David Beatty's brows were already wrinkled. He knew that this time the operation would not be so smooth. The fleet led by Rear Admiral Carroll suffered heavy losses. Now, it turns out that the Germans were not defenseless. Although, our side still has an absolute advantage in the number of battleships. They had 9 battle cruisers and 4 battleships. The Germans only used 9 battle cruisers. However, the combat power of German warships is obviously superior to that of British warships, especially warships equipped with 380 mm main guns, which is even more terrifying. How to choose? David. Lieutenant General Beatty is also a little undecided. Reason told him that he should retreat immediately. In this way, the Royal Navy can be guaranteed not to suffer too much loss as much as possible. Of course, the 4 Iron Duke battleships definitely couldn't escape because of their speed. But in this case, it is better than annihilation of the whole army. However, Lieutenant General David Beatty knew that he absolutely couldn't just retreat so easily. Otherwise, he would not be able to make a difference to Churchill and the cabinet at all. The British cabinet is still waiting eagerly for the victory of this operation to relieve the threat of the German Navy's breaking fleet to the British sea transportation line. If they retreat like this, it will undoubtedly prove that this operation has completely failed, especially when 3 King George V class battleships were sunk, 1 was severely damaged, and more battleships may be lost. Such a result was unacceptable to the Royal Navy, Churchill, and the cabinet. Therefore, for Lieutenant General David Beatty, it was impossible to order a retreat. Give General Robertson an order to drag the 3 powerful warships of the Germans and buy us time. Order the formation of battle cruisers to close the distance with the Germans and try to defeat them in the shortest possible time. They then reinforced General Robertson. Didn't the Germans rely on the strength of their warships to crush us? Then let's show them the real strength of the Royal Navy. Naval battles are definitely not just about relying on the strength of warships. Victory Lieutenant General David Beatty ordered. Hundreds of years ago, when the Armada of the Kingdom of Spain attacked England, the British Navy was also at an absolute disadvantage. However, they still won the final victory. Lieutenant General David Beatty believed that after the warriors of the Royal Navy fully displayed their combat effectiveness, they would definitely be able to make up for the inferior performance of the battleship and defeat the German Navy. What's more, they still have an advantage in the number of warships. Yes, General. The staff officer immediately went to give the order. Soldiers of the Royal Navy, we are now facing a huge crisis. If the German fleet in front of us is not defeated, but is defeated by them, the Royal Navy of the British Empire will suffer heavy losses. We will not be able to relieve the Germans against us. The threat of sea transportation lines, our country, will be slowly hanged by the Germans, and even in the decisive battle in the future, the Royal Navy has no chance of winning. Therefore, we can only fight to the death, and only by defeating the Germans can we gain victory. Lieutenant General David Beatty spoke to the officers and soldiers of the British Navy, hoping to inspire their fighting spirit. Chapter 245. Bite the bullet. General Beatty asked us to hold back these 3 warships of the Germans, to buy time for them to defeat the German fleet. After they have won the victory, they will come back to support us. A communications officer said to us. Major General Robertson reported. Rear Admiral Robertson's complexion kept changing. The 3 German Navy warships equipped with 380mm main guns brought him great pressure. Damn, there is no other way now but to fight the Germans. Order all ships and prepare to fight. Major General Robertson ordered. He knew very well that under such circumstances, the speed of the Iron Duke battleship would be a flaw. This made it impossible for them to escape from the pursuit of the German Navy's battle cruisers. Therefore, it seems that there is no other way except to work hard. May God bless us, bless the Royal Navy. I hope that General Beatty and the others can defeat the German fleet earlier. After issuing the order, Major General Robertson secretly prayed to God. Although, they now have 4 Iron Duke battleships, but facing the 3 Der Flieger class battle cruisers of the German Navy, he still has no confidence in winning, and he doesn't even know how long he can last. If he led a fast battle cruiser instead of a slow battleship this time, maybe Major General Robertson would directly request to retreat instead of fighting. After Rear Admiral Robertson's order was issued, the 4 Iron Duke battleships of the British Navy had already lined up in a battle line, and the 343mm main turret began to rotate, aiming at the 3 German ships of the German Navy coming from the north. Flieger-class battle cruisers. Aboard the battleship Der Flieger, Admiral Reinhard Scheer had a smile on his face. Although, the 4 Iron Duke battle cruisers of the British Navy seemed to be ready to fight them. However, this did not worry him. He has absolute confidence in his battleship. The British seem to have realized their current situation. They have no other choice but to fight us. Since this is the case, let us defeat them openly. Reinhard Scheer entered will say. Order the ships to start shooting after the distance is reduced to 15,000 meters. The seaplane provides firepower for the battleships. Within an hour, smash the 4 British battleships into the sea. Yes, General. The 3 Der Flieger class battle cruisers of the German Navy are also ready for battle. The speed of the 2 battle lines began to shorten continuously. The 380mm main gun and the 343mm main gun were already pointing at the opposing battleship. The Iron Duke and the Marlborough attacked the German No. 1 ship, the Benbour attacked the German No. 2 ship, and the Emperor of India attacked the German No. 3 ship. Robert Major General Sen quickly assigned the targets. The German Navy's Der Flieger battlecruiser has a flagship flag, so it naturally became the focus of Major General Robertson's attack. He gathered the firepower of 2 Iron Duke battleships, trying to damage or sink the flagship of the German Navy first. In this case, he may have a chance to reverse the situation and turn defeat into victory. Admiral Reinhard Scheer and Major General Robertson also thought of going together. Because the German fleet is 1 less in number, this makes them have 1 warship, which will inevitably be besieged by 2 opposing warships. The battlecruiser Der Flieger is the flagship, and it is normal to be besieged. However, Admiral Reinhard Scheer is very confident in the defense of the battlecruiser Der Flieger. Even if he is besieged by 2 enemy battleships, he can still persist. Admiral Reinhard Scheer also ordered the battle cruisers Lutzow and Hindenburg to seize this opportunity and sink their opponents in one fell swoop. In that case, they will be able to seal the victory in advance. The German Navy's break-off fleet and the British Navy's battle cruiser formation have also formed a confrontation. The 6 battle cruisers of the German Navy broke into the fleet against the 9 battle cruisers of the British Navy. In terms of the number of warships, the British Navy has a clear advantage. However, the last time the battle cruiser Lion was sunk, this left a deep impression on Lieutenant Admiral David Beatty and other officers and soldiers of the British Navy. They all know that the warships of the German Navy are not so easy to deal with. Even if they have a numerical advantage, it is very difficult to win. Battle cruiser Tiger against German Moltke, Queen Mary against German Goeben, Royal Princess against German Seydlitz, apostrophe Indefatigable and New Zealand against the German Blucher, Australia and Invincible against von der Tann, Indomitable and Indomitable, deal with Leopold. This time, we must win. Lieutenant General David Beatty said firmly. Lieutenant Admiral David Beatty knew well where his side's weaknesses were. The Lion-class battlecruiser could confront the German Navy's Moltke-class battlecruiser in front of him. However, the Indefatigable-class battlecruisers and the Invincible-class battlecruisers are relatively too weak. Therefore, Lieutenant General David Beatty attempted to win by using 2 ships against 1. In the case of a quantitative advantage, the only way that can be thought of. However, can the Indefatigable-class battlecruisers and the Invincible-class battlecruisers really win? Even if it is 2 against 1, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. The Indefatigable-class battlecruiser has a displacement of only 22,000 tons, is equipped with 4 twin 305mm main guns, and has a maximum speed of 25 knots. The Invincible battlecruiser has a displacement of only 20,000 tons, is also equipped with 4 twin 305mm main guns, and has a maximum speed of 25.5 knots. The firepower and speed of these 2 battlecruisers are not bad. However, the defense is very bad. The thickest part of the main side armor belt of these 2 battlecruisers is only 152mm. The turret armor is only 177.8mm. The conning tower armor is only 280mm. And the deck armor is only a few tens of millimeters. Such a defense, not to mention the main guns of the battle cruisers of the German Navy, even the main guns of the cruisers can pose a fatal threat to them. Chapter 246, An Early Decisive Battle. The Invincible-class battlecruiser and the Indefatigable-class battlecruiser, as the earliest 2-class battlecruiser of the British Navy, have brought the design concept of emphasizing firepower and speed, and despising defense to the extreme. However, naval battles have proved that defense and survivability play a very important role in naval battles. The defense is too poor, and often as long as it is hit, it will be severely injured or even sunk. But now, the British Navy has nothing to do, knowing that the situation is very unfavorable to them, but still have to bite the bullet. Fire. At a distance of 15,000 meters, the German Navy fired first. 3 Moltke-class battlecruisers and 3 Blucher-class battlecruisers began to pour shells at their respective targets. The targets of the Moltke-class battlecruisers were the Tiger and the remaining 2 ships of the Lion-class battlecruisers, and the targets of the Blucher-class battlecruisers were clearly Indefatigable, Australia and Indomitable. The German Navy also hopes that the Blucher-class battlecruisers will win first. After all, although the enemy they faced was not weak in firepower, their defense was too rubbish. As long as it is hit by a shell, it is possible to seriously damage it. If the key is hit, it may even be sunk directly. Although, the caliber of the main gun of the Blucher-class battlecruiser is only 305mm. However, the 305mm main gun with 50 times the caliber has extremely terrifying armor capabilities, and it cannot even withstand the defense of the King George V battleships, let alone these weakly armored battlecruisers. Boom. 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 Accompanied by a roar that shook the sky, one after another shells roared and smashed into the opponent's battleship. After the German Navy's breaking fleet opened fire, the British Navy was not to be outdone, and all 9 battlecruisers opened fire one after another. Moreover, they are still trying their best to shorten the distance. When one's own defense is far inferior to that of the enemy, the British Navy hopes to improve the armor-piercing ability of its own shells by shortening the distance. In this case, it may be possible to reverse the unfavorable situation as much as possible. It's a pity that the German Navy was not fooled at all. With the speeds of both sides almost the same, they kept the combat distance at a distance of 12,000 to 13,000 meters. This distance is very beneficial to the German Navy. The main gun of the British Navy can hardly penetrate the main armor of the German Navy. However, the main guns of the German Navy can easily penetrate the armor of British battleships. In such a fight, the German Navy will obviously take advantage, and the numerical advantage of the British Navy will almost be completely offset. After all, what's the use of having quantity? You must be able to hit the target and penetrate the armor before you can cause damage to the target. Otherwise, it is a waste of shells. At 11:45 noon, the battlecruiser von der Tann of the German Navy took the lead in forming a straddle in this naval battle, when a 305mm artillery shell exploded on the sea surface on the left side of the battlecruiser Australia. Hundreds of officers and soldiers on the entire ship couldn't help but gasped. Damn, when did the Germans become so powerful? Countless British naval officers and soldiers have such a question in their minds. They also learned about the tragedy of the 4 King George V class battleships before. But now when they really fight against the German Navy, they know how powerful their enemy is. The battlecruiser von der Tann immediately switched to focused fire, and 3 triple-mounted 50 caliber 305mm main guns began to pour shells at the Australia at the maximum rate of fire. Boom. A shell hit the sea, and after the explosion, a water column as high as 10 meters was splashed. The water splashed down and hit the sea surface, making a crackling sound, just like a storm was falling. A dozen battlecruisers from both sides fought fiercely in this sea area, which directly made this sea area boil. On another battlefield, the fierce battle between the 3 Der Flieger class battlecruisers of the German Navy and the 4 Iron Duke class battleships of the British Navy also kicked off. The 380mm main gun of the Der Flieger class battlecruiser is amazingly powerful. Every shell that explodes on the sea can splash water columns soaring into the sky, and the momentum is astonishing. The officers and soldiers of the British Navy can only bite the bullet and fight fiercely with them. They all knew very well that, even though their warships were battleships, their armor was too weak. If they were hit by a 380mm shell, it would be enough to cause them severe damage. This naval battle is a crucial naval battle for the British Navy and the German Navy, and it can even determine the outcome of the two sides in this war. It is not an exaggeration to say that the decisive battle between the two sides has arrived ahead of schedule. Originally, the British Navy just wanted to destroy the German Navy's breaking fleet in this operation, so as to ensure the safety of their sea transportation lines. But I didn't expect that the German Navy also deployed a backhand, and it was very aggressive. The fleet that used them as bait almost wiped out all of them. This caused the British Navy to suffer another heavy blow. It also made Lieutenant General David Beatty, who carried out this plan, a little bit hard to get off. If they stop here, their losses will be in vain, and it will be difficult to get them back. Therefore, Lieutenant General David Beatty had no choice but to pin his hopes on the next battle. If the Royal Navy could show its might and defeat the German Navy in one fell swoop, they might be able to reverse the situation. Conversely, if the British Navy failed instead of succeeding, it would be very difficult for the British Navy to win this war. The same is true for the German Navy. When the Imperial Prince Qin Tian was formulating this battle plan, he regarded this plan as a plan to secure the victory in advance. If the German Navy can win in this plan, then the German Navy will be able to secure the victory in advance. In the future decisive battle at sea, there will be no problems at all. So, the German Navy desperately wanted to win this naval battle. This will be directly related to whether they can establish the victory of this decisive battle. This naval battle has become crucial for both Britain and Germany. Whoever can win will have an advantage in the future decisive battle. However, from the current point of view, the possibility of the German Navy's victory seems to be a little bit greater. Chapter 247, Blast Off. Boom. Boom. On the sea, the warships of both sides are firing desperately, smashing heavy shells at each other. Although, both sides are battle cruisers that are not suitable for decisive battles. This also makes this battle more tragic. God bless the British Empire. Lieutenant General David Beatty kept praying to God. Even though the battle cruisers of the British Navy are superior in number, he has no confidence in winning at all. Maybe God heard the prayer of Lieutenant General David Beatty. The battle cruiser Queen Mary successfully formed a straddle during this round of test firing. Good job. Lieutenant General David Beatty, who received the news, couldn't help cheering. However, only 2 minutes later, the battle cruiser Goban also straddled the battle cruiser Queen Mary. The two sides can be said to be evenly matched, and the fight is inextricably linked. As time went by, more and more warships formed a straddle and switched to concentrated fire. This also means that hitting the target is only a matter of time. The luck of the British seems to be slightly better. So, the first hit was made by the battleship HMS Invincible of the British Navy. A 305mm artillery shell hit the rear deck of the battlecruiser von der Tann, directly blasting a big hole and causing a raging fire. Fortunately, no other damage was done. Such a small injury is insignificant to a huge battlecruiser with a displacement of 26,000 tons. But then, the German Navy returned the color. The battlecruiser Leopold hit the battlecruiser Indomitable. A 305mm artillery shell slammed into the bow of the Indomitable ship. The weak deck armor was directly penetrated, and the shell exploded inside the bow. Several compartments were destroyed in the explosion, and the fire began to spread. The sailors on the battlecruiser Indomitable immediately carried out loss control. Countless sailors wearing gas masks rushed to the fire with water dragons. They must extinguish the fire as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will be serious consequences. 2 minutes later, the battlecruiser Leopold scored another hit. A 305mm artillery shell hit the battlecruiser Indomitable near the waterline of the stern. Only the waterline armor with a thickness of more than 100mm was in front of the heavy artillery shell, as if it was made of paper, and was instantly torn apart. After the shell exploded, a large hole was blasted in the side of the battlecruiser Indomitable. Because the place where it was hit was just near the waterline, seawater began to pour into the hull of the battlecruiser Indomitable crazily. Got the Indomitable is it? How is the situation? Is the injury serious? Lieutenant General David Beatty also became nervous. Not long after the battle had just begun, if the British Navy lost its battleship, it would be very bad news for them. General, the situation is not optimistic. The waterline of the Indomitable was blown up a big hole. Now, damage control is being carried out. The staff officer reported. How could this happen? Those naval designers should all be shot. Lieutenant General David Beatty couldn't help cursing. He seems to have forgotten that when the British Navy established the design concept of emphasizing firepower and speed and despising defense, it was when Sir John Fisher was the Secretary of the Navy. At that time, in order to better maintain its own sea power and ensure the safety of its colonies scattered all over the world, Britain needed to have warships with fast speed and long endurance. It is precisely because of this that such a design idea was established. This also makes the British Navy have been using this design idea over the years. Now is the time for them to taste the bitter fruit. A few minutes later, the Indomitable reported to the flagship that their hulls were severely flooded and their hulls had tilted. If they continued to fight, they would most likely be sunk if they were hit again. Therefore, the captain of the battlecruiser Unyielding requested to withdraw from the battle. Regarding this request, Lieutenant General David Beatty struggled for a while, then nodded. Originally, the British Navy would not have an advantage in this naval battle. If there is one less warship, this will make them even more disadvantaged. However, the Unyielding cannot be allowed to join the battle with injuries. In that case, I'm afraid the Indomitable will be sunk soon. At that time, the British Navy will forever lack a capital ship. The battlecruiser Indomitable, which was severely damaged, withdrew from the battle and left the battlefield under the asterisk of a destroyer. The German Navy did not pursue it. For them, defeating the British fleet is the most important thing. Very good. Although it was not able to sink it, forcing it to withdraw from the battlefield is also a victory. The British have one less warship, and our pressure will be reduced by 1 point, and the possibility of winning will be increased by 1 point. Lieutenant General Hipper said with a smile. Lieutenant General Spee nodded. Let the Leopold attack the British Indomitable and get rid of it as soon as possible. The capital ships of the German Navy are 3 fewer than the British Navy. Therefore, they want to sink or severely damage the 3 battle cruisers of the British Navy as much as possible. Only in this way can they further establish the victory. Although, in the ensuing battle, the battle cruisers of the British Navy also scored hits many times. However, the German Navy's battle cruisers have strong defenses, and the British Navy's artillery shells have problems, so they can only cause some minor injuries to the German Navy's battle cruisers. As for the battle cruisers of the German Navy, as long as they get a hit, they can basically severely damage the battleships of the British Navy. This is the benefit of strong defense. Although it is already noon, everyone can't take care of eating. Everyone is engrossed in this naval battle, even if they are hungry, they don't care. Point at 12. 14. The battle cruiser Blucher of the German Navy successfully hit the battle cruiser Indefatigable of the British Navy in this round of salvo, and it was a one-time hit. 2 shells, or 305mm artillery shell penetrated the side armor of the Indefatigable, and opened a large opening on the right side of it. Another shell, which directly penetrated its number 2 main turret. Armor with less than 180mm cannot withstand 305mm shells at all. After the shell penetrated the armor of the turret, it directly penetrated the defense of the ammunition depot before it exploded. Boom. A huge explosion sounded like thunder. When the fire and gunpowder smoke cleared, the battle cruiser Indefatigable was already dilapidated. Chapter 248. The power of the 380 main gun. While the battle cruisers of Britain and Germany were fighting desperately, the duel between the German Navy's Derfflinger class battle cruisers and the British Navy's Iron Duke class battleships had also begun. Although the combat distance between the two sides is 15,000 meters, no matter whether it is a 380mm main gun or a 343mm main gun, they can reach each other at this distance. In particular, the 380mm main gun of the German Navy is not only powerful, but also has a long range, completely surpassing the 343mm main gun of the British Navy. Of course, the two sides are not at the same level in terms of power. Boom. Boom. The 3 battle cruisers of the German Navy are firing, and the roar of the 380mm main gun seems to be thundering. I saw the orange flames shining from the muzzle, and the shells weighing more than a ton had already slammed into the British battleship in the distance. Although the British Navy has 4 Iron Duke class battleships, the German Navy only has 3 Derfflinger class battleships, but no matter how you look at it, it seems that the British Navy is under pressure. Damn it, the Germans are targeting us. Let the Marlborough seize the opportunity and hit the German warship, Rear Admiral Robertson ordered. At this moment, no German warship fired on the battleship Marlborough, which allowed them to fire on the battlecruiser Derfflinger of the German Navy without any interference. This also put a lot of pressure on the captain of the battleship Marlborough, as well as the naval officers and soldiers on the battleship. After all, Major General Robertson seemed to put his hope of victory on them. In many cases, the greater the pressure, the greater the motivation may not necessarily be, and it may even cause abnormal performance due to excessive pressure. Although the battleship Marlborough has conducted several rounds of test firing, it has never been able to form a straddle fire, let alone switch to concentrated fire. The British Navy is not functioning properly, but the German Navy is performing very normally. Boom. Boom. Only 15 minutes after the start of the battle, the battlecruiser Lutzow successfully formed a straddle fire, and then switched to concentrated fire. 3 triple-mounted 380mm main guns began to fire at the maximum rate of fire. This immediately made all the personnel on the battleship Benbow of the British Navy feel their scalps tingle. After the Luzov switched to salvo, this means that it was only a matter of time before they hit. Many people prayed to God that the shells would not hit them so quickly. Although the power of the German Navy's 380mm main gun is still unclear, absolutely no one wants to take the initiative to try it. Subsequently, the battlecruiser Hindenburg also straddled the battleship Emperor of India and began to focus fire. For a while, the situation of the battle became very unfavorable for Major General Robertson. He could almost foresee that once hit, the battleships of the British Navy would be severely damaged. At that time, it will probably be even more difficult to counter the remaining warships of the German Navy. Boom. 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 The battleships on both sides opened fire violently, smashing shells at each other desperately, and jets of water rose from the sea. The whole sea is like boiling water that has boiled. Although the number of troops used in naval battles is not as large as that used in land battles, this does not mean that naval battles are not as tragic as land battles, or even worse. The duel between the warships of the two sides lined up in the battle line was like knights in heavy armor attacking each other. It was very tragic. Every hit will take away countless lives. In this era, the duel on the battle line undoubtedly represents the duel of the highest industrial strength and technological strength. Boom. A ball of fire rose above the battle cruiser Der Flieger, and the place where the fireball erupted happened to be the position of the conning tower. Long live. God bless us. Seeing this scene, Major General Robertson cheered immediately. The other officers and soldiers of the British Navy were also cheering. It would be great if the command tower of the enemy's flagship could be destroyed with one shot. This can not only cause confusion in the opponent's command, but also severely damage the morale of the enemy. Maybe they will be able to turn defeat into victory. Great. If I can command the fleet to defeat the powerful German fleet, I will definitely make a great contribution. Maybe, after returning to England, I can get a promotion. Major General Robertson thought secretly. It's a pity that Major General Robertson's thoughts quickly dissipated. Because, when the smoke cleared, it was discovered that the battleship Der Flieger of the German Navy was intact. The bridge that was hit was not penetrated, and the shells just exploded outside. God, how is this possible? Major General Robertson couldn't believe everything in front of him. It is obvious that one's own shell has hit, but the other side has nothing to do with it. The armor of those Germans is so thick. It shouldn't be. How could the defense of the battle cruiser be so strong? Major General Robertson murmured. In his impression, the defense of the battle cruiser should be relatively weak. But the battle cruisers of the German Navy overturned his viewpoint. In fact, although the 343mm artillery shell was not able to penetrate the armor of the conning tower of the battle cruiser Der Flieger, the power of the shell explosion was still relatively large. Not only some sailors on the deck were directly killed, the other officers in the command tower were also stunned. Some officers who were close to the explosion point were even stunned. Fortunately, Admiral Reinhard Scheer was far away from the explosion point at that time, and it was just a fall, and there was nothing serious about it. The shelling of the battle cruiser Der Flieger was only interrupted for a few minutes, and it resumed soon. Although the British Navy scored the first hit, it did not help them win the war. Because, then the battle cruisers of the German Navy also scored hits. Boom. The battlecruiser Hindenburg successfully hit the battleship Emperor of India of the British Navy during this round of salvo. The shell hit the number 2 turret of the battleship Emperor of India. The 280mm thick turret armor is completely unable to withstand the 380mm shells, and is easily penetrated. After the shell exploded, the entire number 2 turret was blown away, and at the same time, the number 1 main turret in front was smashed, causing the battleship Emperor of India to directly lose 40% of its firepower. Chapter 249, Desperate. General, the Emperor of India was severely damaged and lost 2 main turrets. The staff officer reported to Major General Robertson. Damn it. Major General Robertson's face was so gloomy that he could drip water. The 380mm main guns of the Der Flieger class battle cruisers of the German Navy are too powerful, and their Iron Duke class battleships simply cannot resist them. I hope that General Betty can win sooner. Otherwise, we will lose. Major General Robertson thought secretly. Now, Major General Robertson can only pin his hopes on Lieutenant General David Beatty. He finally understood that it was almost impossible to use 4 Iron Duke class battleships to defeat the 3 German Der Flieger class battle cruisers. Boom. A huge explosion sounded, and Major General Robertson felt as if his body was flying. Boom. Immediately, Major General Robertson hit the ground hard, making him dizzy. Damn, we were hit. Report the loss. Major General Robertson immediately got up from the ground and asked loudly. 2 minutes later, the staff officer reported to him, General, the midship was shot, and 2 secondary guns were lost. Fortunately, it was above the waterline. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. Major General Robertson also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the place where he was hit was the side, above the water. If it was below the waterline, he had no doubt that their weak waterline armor would not be able to withstand the terrifying power of the 380mm main gun. Arsehole, why hasn't the Marlborough hit the German warship after fighting for so long? Rear Admiral Robertson was very angry. It stands to reason that without interference, the battleship Marlborough should be easier to get a hit. General, the Marlborough has completed its straddle shooting and has started to focus its fire. It just takes a little time to hit the German warship. The staff officer persuaded. Time. I want to give them time too. But will the Germans give us time? Major General Robertson was furious. Indeed, the German Navy will never give them time. 5 minutes later, the battlecruiser Hindenburg hit the battleship Emperor of India again. Or 380mm artillery shell penetrated the stern armor of the battleship Emperor of India, penetrated into the hull and exploded. The huge power directly blew up the transmission shaft. This caused the battleship Emperor of India to lose power, and its speed became slower and slower, and it would soon turn into a dead dog lying on the sea. When Major General Robertson heard the news, he remained silent for a long time, as if he couldn't believe that they were going to lose a battleship so soon. If the battleship Emperor of India is sunk, then, in the case of 3-3, they may have no chance of winning. Send a telegram to General Betty. We have tried our best. However, the enemy is very strong, and we may not last long. Major General Robertson ordered. Yes, General. Very well done, lads. Send a telegram to the Hindenburg to send that British battleship to the bottom of the sea to feed the fish in 10 minutes. Reinhard Scheer, the general, ordered excitedly. He seemed to have seen the victory, not only the victory of this naval battle, but also the victory of this war. Yes, General. The communications officer, who was equally excited, went to send a telegram immediately. After receiving a telegram from Admiral Reinhard Scheer, the bombardment of the Hindenburg became more intense. Heavy shells slammed fiercely at the battleship Emperor of India. A column of water soaring into the sky continuously rose from around the battleship Emperor of India. The British naval officers and soldiers on the battleship Emperor of India also seemed to know their fate. However, they still did not give up their resistance, and they were still hurrying up to open fire on the battlecruiser Hindenburg. However, the response of the battleship Emperor of India was nothing more than a dying struggle. 5 minutes later, the battlecruiser Hindenburg hit the battleship Emperor of India again. Because the speed of the Emperor of India battleship was getting slower and slower, which was almost forbidden in this round of salvo, the 9 380mm shells fired by the Hindenburg battleship hit 3. The battleship Emperor of India was broken into 2 pieces in the violent explosion and quickly sank into the sea. The naval officers and soldiers on the battleship all sank into the sea together with the battleship, and none survived. The Emperor of India was sunk. On the battleship Iron Duke, there was an exclamation. Major General Robertson's face was as hen, and he said nothing. Very good. Adjust the shooting target. The Lutzow attacked the Marlborough, and the Hindenburg attacked the Ben Boer. Now it is 3 against 3, and the battle will be resolved within an hour. Rear Admiral Scheer gave the order with a smile on his face. On the battlecruiser Tiger, Lieutenant General David Beatty frowned. The current situation is becoming more and more unfavorable to them. Originally, he thought that with their numerical advantage, they could defeat the German Navy's breaking fleet. But now it seems that everything is too simple for him. General Robertson is calling. The 380mm naval guns of the German fleet are very powerful, and they are almost unable to hold on. The communications officer reported. Lieutenant General David Beatty frowned. Let Major General Robertson find a way to hold on for a while longer. Yes, General. However, soon, the communications officer returned. General, the Emperor of India has been sunk. The communications officer reported. What? Lieutenant General David Beatty was stunned, as if he couldn't believe it. You must know that the Iron Duke battleship is the most powerful battleship in active service in the British Navy. Before the Queen Elizabeth class and Revenge class battleships entered service, they were the main force among the main forces of the Royal Navy. But now, one ship was sunk so quickly, which undoubtedly shows that the warships of the German Navy are much more powerful than they had expected before. The remaining 3 Iron Duke battleships probably won't last long either. Let General Robertson try his best to persist first, and I will find a way here. Lieutenant General David Beatty was worried. Now they seem to have fallen into a desperate situation. Chapter 250, Docking the Tail to Survive. Order the ships to attack with all their strength. We are now at the point of life and death. If we cannot defeat the enemy in front of us, we will only die. Therefore, for the Royal Navy, for the British Empire, and for ourselves, defeat Germany, people. May God bless us. Lieutenant General David Beatty spoke to the officers and men of the Royal Navy's ships. Long live the Royal Navy. Long live the British Empire. The officers and soldiers of the Royal Navy, whose morale was low due to being at a disadvantage, once again mustered their fighting spirit and devoted themselves to the battle. It's just that, when the Indomitable was severely damaged and withdrew from the battle, and the Indefatigable was sunk, the Royal Navy only had 7 battle cruisers left. The German Navy's break-off fleet is still 6 battle cruisers. Boom. 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 The battle cruisers on both sides fired continuously, and the shells passed through the air one after another, making sharp and piercing sounds. The naval battle has entered the climax stage, and both sides can be said to have become red-eyed. However, judging from the loss and strength comparison, the German Navy's broken fleet still has the upper hand. General Scheer has already sunk a British battleship. It is estimated that the battle will end soon. The 380mm main gun of the Derfflinger class battlecruiser is really powerful. Lieutenant General Hipper exclaimed. That's right. The Derfflinger class has become so strong. So how strong will the follow-up Mackensen class be? What's more, our King class battleships and the Bavaria class the battleships are all equipped with 380mm main guns. From the perspective of strength comparison, we have completely surpassed the British Royal Navy. I think there will be no suspense in our victory in the future decisive battle at sea. It's gone. Lieutenant General Speedy looked forward to it. He seemed to have seen the scene where the German Navy defeated the Royal Navy and won the final victory in the future naval battle. We will definitely win. Lieutenant General Hipper also said. At this time, the battlecruiser Seydlitz of the German Navy was shot, and a shell fired from the battlecruiser Royal Princess of the British Navy hit the Seydlitz battlecruiser. The shell penetrated the rear deck of the Seydlitz, and after the shell exploded, it broke a transmission shaft, which greatly affected the speed of the battlecruiser Seydlitz. After receiving the news, Lieutenant General Hipper and Lieutenant General Speed did not look very good. Can the Seydlitz continue to hold on? Lieutenant General Hipper asked. It's difficult. The speed is decreasing, and it will gradually fail to keep up with the battle line. In addition, it will also become a key target for the British. If it is lost because of this, it would be a pity. Lieutenant General Spee said. Hipper nodded. So far, these warships of the German Navy may have suffered more or less injuries, but they were all minor injuries, and they were not severely damaged, let alone on the battlefield. One of the drive shafts of the Seydlitz was blown up, and it only needs to be returned to the shipyard for repairs. If you were severely injured, or even sunk, because you persisted in fighting, it would be too much for the loss. Let the Seydlitz withdraw from the battle. Even if one ship is missing, we can still defeat the British. Lieutenant General Hipper said. Lieutenant General Spee had no objection to this, and immediately ordered the withdrawal of the Seydlitz from the battle. The British Navy couldn't help cheering when they saw a warship of the German Navy withdrawing from the battle. Great, God bless us. Lieutenant General David Beatty couldn't help showing a smile on his face. It is now 7-5, and we still have the advantage. Perhaps, we still have a chance of winning. Lieutenant General David Beatty secretly thought. However, after only 10 minutes, Lieutenant General David Beatty had to completely forget this idea. The battlecruiser Von der Tann once again hit the battlecruiser Australia. Before, the battlecruiser Australia was severely damaged. This time, it was hit by 2 305mm shells at one time. A shell penetrated the conning tower of the battleship Australia. Although the conning tower has 280mm armor, it still cannot withstand the shells fired by the 305mm main gun with 50 times the caliber. After the shell tore through the armor, it exploded inside the conning tower, killing all the officers inside. Another shell hit the stern of the battleship Australia, blowing up the steering gear and causing a lot of water ingress. After the failure to plug the leak, the captain of the battlecruiser Australia had to issue an order to abandon the ship, causing the battlecruiser formation of the British Navy to lose another battleship. Immediately afterwards, 5 minutes later, the battlecruiser Leopold completed the lure of the battlecruiser Indomitable of the British Navy. A 305mm shell hit the armor near the waterline of the battlecruiser Indomitable at a very tricky angle. The waterline armor of the invincible battlecruiser was already very weak, and it couldn't withstand 305mm shells at all. The waterline armor was directly torn open a big hole, which affected several cabins. The officers and soldiers on the battlecruiser Indomitable immediately carried out loss control. However, in the face of the surging seawater pouring in, there was no other way but to give up. As more and more seawater entered the hull of the battlecruiser Indomitable gradually tilted. As a last resort, the captain of the battlecruiser Indomitable reported to Lieutenant Admiral David Beatty and then gave the order to abandon the ship. Soon, this huge battleship with a displacement of 20,000 tons capsized on the sea and sank into the icy Atlantic Ocean. Now the comparison on the sea has become 5 to 5. The British Navy still has the Tiger, Queen Mary, Royal Princess, New Zealand and Invincible. The German Navy still has the Moltke, Goeben, Blücher, von der Tann and Leopold left, although the number of both sides is the same. However, in terms of combat effectiveness, the two sides are not at the same level at all. We lost, General, we have already lost, we can't beat the Germans at all, a staff officer said crying. David? Lieutenant General Betty, why don't you know this? Now he is once again faced with a choice. Should we continue to fight until a heroic sacrifice, or should we retreat and preserve our strength? Soon, Lieutenant General David Beatty had a choice, and he directly issued an order to retreat. At the same time, Rear Admiral Robertson was ordered to lead the remaining fleet to hold the Germans. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.